as what's his name? Dave Outlandish would say, let's burn this witch. Let's fuck this chicken. But are we doing this thing again with the... Let me tinker with some settings here. Oh, you know what it was? I do know what it was. I think you should be able to hear V now. V, go ahead and do your testing.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
See, I always like to fuck around with the settings when we don't record for great periods of time.
Yeah.
So, because I have to do that in order to steal music off of YouTube, I have to change the settings.
Somebody did the Titanic joke. Oh, it was Jurassic Weave. It's been 48 years. I think they can hear me now. Mike in Manitoba did the thumbs up.
He got the thumbs up, so we're good to go. And we got some howdies. We got a lot of new people in the chat today. I'm pretty excited about that. I knew we were going to have some new visitors to the show, and that's why you said that we had to kind of bring it strong this time.
Yeah, we got to come back strong.
Yeah, because I had done that Exodus Americanus episode, and we got a lot of new subscribers from that. As a matter of fact, you know how many subscribers we're at now? You would know if you read the notes that I shared earlier.
Yeah. Is Exodus Americanus, is that like the sequel to
whatever it is? Yeah, it's whatever you were gonna say.
I was trying to think of that. What's that one with the Hunger Games? Don't they have like weird subtitles? Oh, what?
Look at this handsome devil putting him on blast.
Can you see? You can hear me, but the question remains: can you see me?
Now you guys know what V looks like with his scarf.
Yeah, well, I don't like to mess with the thermostat in my house because I end up like not putting it at a setting that I actually like, and then I'm just jumping up and down, turning it off and on. Like, oh, it's too cold now, it's too hot. So I decided tonight instead I'll just bundle up. So I'm in my bathrobe and my scarf.
Nice. That's exactly the way that we want to see RV. We want RV in a bathrobe and a scarf, and not completely naked with your wiener pressed against the window like you normally do.
Yeah, without the.
But this is the big face reveal of V that we were gonna do at 600 subscribers.
I'm not just a picture anymore, you guys. Can you believe that?
We brought him to life with all the new fans that we got. We brought V to life. We made him a real boy. So and so now I can switch to you when I have to pick my nose, and then I'll switch it back to me as Jacques Cousteau.
Well, I was joking. I said this time, now that I'm live, now that I'm like here, you're gonna actually be able to see when I'm yawning. When I'm bored.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I boring you? That we get to do that? Yeah. Oh, there it is. Oh, look at him sucking on the ghost dick. So.
I guess I can do all my own gay
pantomimes. Yeah, your gay pantomimes.
Pantomime.
So I don't have to do them anymore. All this number and the skiing and the milking, cows or whatever.
Yeah, but what happens?
Whatever not gay thing that I'm doing when I'm pantomiming. So.
Yeah.
No, very excited to be back. It's been like a whole month, right? We've been,
we took a radical sabbatical. We took a month off, basically.
We did. Well, I was answering somebody's question in the chat and trying to agree with you because somebody said, "Does V's nose grow when he lies?"
I'm not Jewish.
Which is great because like my nose, normally you get my profile of my nose, which is massive. So I'm glad like the nose jokes are getting shifted away from me today. Yeah. Enough of that from my wife. But no, we did. We took a radical sabbatical, and I blame hunting season, but also I have it's the end of my semester, so I have a lot of homework that I got to catch up on. A lot of projects that I totally blew off until the last possible second. And so now I'm paying for that. But yeah, we're back, and we are going to do an episode that we planned to do a month ago that I thought was pretty important with the election and all that cool stuff. But now it's still relevant, thank God, because Trump hasn't given up. He hasn't given up his seat of power, his throne in the White House.
Did you see his tweet today with the speech?
Where
he was like,
talk about it.
Or the speech that he gave today, where he was like, "We're not going to stand for this, and I defend the Constitution, and that's my job as the president." And as I was watching it, I was like, I was doing the Earl frown and nod, like,
yeah,
Yeah, fucking
Yeah,
A.
I generally do that look whenever I read his stuff. He said something. You know what was funny that he said the other day? I was going to start writing down names to welcome people to the chat, but I'll do that later. So
Oh yeah.
stand by if you're
Mhm.
waiting to be thanked for showing up. He did this thing. The Georgia governor was complaining that uh, people are being threatened, and there's violence, calls to violence against these people, and somebody was threatened with a noose, and they were threatened to be hanged. Well, he said hung, which was wrong. It's hanged.
Oh, yeah, it's Hank.
And you know me, I always have to point that out. Like, you
Yeah.
should know that as a governor. You should at least know the difference between hang and hunged. But this dude, he said, Mr. President,
So
you
does
got to
that mean that
stop.
I'm well hanged?
Yeah, well, you would say that you would not say that, first of all, but
Oh,
the but no, he said that. Speaking of V's penis, that was the topic for tonight. He said people are being threatened, Mr. President. All you have to do is call off your dogs, call them off. Don't tell them not to do this. It's gone on long enough. And what does the president do? He quote retweets this dude's story saying, basically, go harder, like, to do more damage, continue to harass these people. They're a fucking mess. These people are the worst. Do something about it. And that's what from what I gather today, is a bunch of people went down to Georgia and were raising all sorts of hell outside of the Capitol building, which is fantastic. I love that.
oh.
I'm all for matching you know protest, and frankly, I'm like a violence for violence guy. You know that. Like, if
Yeah.
somebody attacks your neighborhood, you take it a step up and you destroy their city. So that's what I think that they're doing right now, or I would hope that they're doing. Unfortunately, that's the thing about conservatives, is they tend to, like, cower at the thought of actually doing something or actually responding in kind. Uh, but
Does,
yeah,
does your title there say CEO of Hitting Kids?
it does. It does. Well, you know what? That was just a test title, like, while I was creating the picture, but I
That's pretty good. That's
totally
pretty good.
forgot about it. Speaking
This
of V's, let's talk about V's real quick while we're still on the
intermittent
duologue here.
faster and handsome birthday boy. It
Yes.
was with my birthday. I'm a veteran that was born on Veterans Day. Not I wasn't a veteran when I was born on Veterans Day, but I was born on Veterans.
Why on earth weren't you?
You get what I'm saying here?
You were a slacker at birth.
Yeah. Yeah, I came out. Yeah, absolutely a slacker every time. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great, man. I like that. The new stuff. We're styling today, man. We're all new, and I'm on camera, and man, look at that.
Kind of like, yeah, it's like we've actually put some effort into the show
Yeah,
now.
what is this? A show? This is like a show we're doing here. Like, we're actually doing stuff.
The worst part is I totally forgot to tweet out the link. So anybody who's in the chat right now, if you could share the link, because I haven't done it yet, that'd be fantastic.
You blew it, dude.
Yeah, I totally did. Well, I was too busy messing around with your stuff. Anyways, I got stuff to talk about. I know you have stuff to talk about with the duologue. Why don't you go first, and then I'll do my tight five after that.
Oh, okay. Well, mine is brief. I've thank you, by the way, those of you who are wishing me a happy birthday. I'm the big. I'm older now. I'm 30, late 30s. I can't really. My dad. I go. I'm late 30s now, and he goes, "No, dude, you're not late 30s anymore. You're like almost 40. You don't say late 30s anymore. You're 39. Yeah, 39 years old is how old I am. But yeah, I guess I can bring it down a notch and tell you about what's been going on the past couple weeks. To put simply, I've gotten really into masturbation.
Huh. Just in the last few weeks.
Yeah, just in the last few weeks, I'm taking it really seriously now. So things got real, dude. Like let me tell you, things got real. I purchased a Oculus Quest 2. Oculus Quest 2. You know about these?
Yeah, is that the Facebook? I don't have one. I have a PSVR.
No, I have an Oculus Quest. And it's funny because when I went to go buy it, I was like, look, I need the best, most advanced VR that ever exists right now, right? That's what I want. I want the most advanced VR. And so they go, oh, this Oculus Quest 2, it just came out last month, right? And so I'm like, yeah, give it to me. And I grab it, take it home. And of course, the first thing that I do is look up VR porn, right? Like, what is the best possible VR porn on the internet, right? Best possible one. And let me tell you something, dude. And like it changed me. It changed my life, dude. It changed my life. And trust me when I say, if you haven't tried it, like try it. The only way I can describe it to you is like, if heaven, if there is heaven, if heaven exists, and heaven is basically like I can eat whatever I want without gaining weight or getting sick or unhealthy, and like just have sex with porn stars all the time, then I'll believe in God. Like I will pray every day and I will worship him. That is enough reason for me. If you tell me that's what heaven is like, then I'll do that. I'll worship God every single day. But as of right now, the closest thing to that is virtual reality porn.
So, do you have to, and this is an important question, do you have to still jerk your own dick with the controllers in your hand? Like, do you have to, like, because
No,
as I understand it, you have,
no,
like,
no. You don't
the
even
little,
use the controllers.
oh,
You don't use the controllers.
well, why on earth not?
They're all standing, sitting, and like standing and sitting position and laying down. You can actually, okay, here's something you should try. Get a VR headset and then watch one of the videos or the what do you call it? There's a better term. The virtual reality I think they're called interactions or experience. Virtual reality experience, right? And they have different ones. This is what you do. You wake up in the morning first thing while you're laying in bed, and then you put the headset on and you watch a video of the person that you're basically are, because that's what happens is your eyes have become the guy that's banging his eyes. And so if you do one while you're laying down or sitting down, it's like real, dude. It's the real thing. The craziest part to me, yeah, exactly. Mike in Manitoba said he's gone pro. Way to describe it is that's what happens, dude. This is like pro shit. This is next level, right? Like if you're gonna do this, get in there. And I'm telling you, dude, when you're watching those videos and like the porn star is looking you right in the eyes, it's mind blowing. It's freaking mind blowing. And like I highly recommend if you haven't tried it, because it will change your life and it will change your perspective on everything. Like what else is there? But to have sex with gorgeous porn stars.
Can
I
you kind of like work your way around to where, okay, say you're lying there and she's right here, her face is right here. Can you work your way around and kind of take a look at the goods? Like, how good is the
No. We're not at that level
like, what
yet.
are we talking
We're not
about
at
here?
that level of virtual reality yet, although that will come soon. Let me tell you this. It will come soon. We are so close to that level of virtual. Like if you try this, and like if you try this virtual reality stuff, we are so close to that. It's unbelievable. Like when I've been watching this stuff, like literally the past 3 weeks, this is all I do. It's really all I want to do with my life. But like if you do this, you will understand. You'll go, we're so close. Like the future is now. Like remember that meme, the Malcolm in the Middle meme?
The
Where he's
future
like,
is
the
now,
future
old
is
man.
now, old man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you'll be saying to yourself. You'll go, holy shit, this is real. This is like really happening. And when you see that, you'll go, like, okay, here's another example. Remember on Demolition Man when he goes to Sandra Bullock's house and she's all, you want to have sex? And then she gives him the virtual reality thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
what the hell? And then it like happens and you're like, holy crap, this is real. That's what'll happen to you. It's better than Demolition Man VR porn. So
So
we're that far advanced where we've gone past what our past thinks the future is. We're past that, dude.
so how do you get off when you're doing this virtual reality?
You want me to walk you through
Please
my
walk me
process?
through it.
Okay, I'll tell you. When I first started doing it, I just kind of like watched it and was like, what the heck? But I've got it all figured out now. This is what I do, man. I sit down in my robe, butt ass naked underneath my robe, and I put on the VR headset, and then I unrobe, right?
Right.
And then I've got my lotion and my towel, right? And then I just, jack off. That's it right there to the VR porn, butt ass naked. If anybody ever walks in on me or if I ever have a heart attack doing this, because that is possible. The first time that I did this, I thought if I was an old man experiencing this that like had no comprehension of like computers and like how far I'm experienced in terms of like various realities because of video games, I guess. So I have that kind of knowledge that like this isn't real. But if I was an old man that didn't understand that, and this was like the only type of like experience with that he ever had, he'd probably have a heart attack. I promise you. Like it would be too much. It'd be like these women are like so beautiful. There are porn stars that I've watched doing this that I like watched on regular video and thought, she's not that great. But then when you look them in the eyes in the virtual reality, you go, my God, this woman, she's a goddess. Like I'm telling you, I had epiphanies, dude. I came to this realization that men like me, we worship women, dude. We don't like hate them. Like I don't hate women. I love women. In fact, I think I worship them. And I think that like that may be like, I don't know, like there's some crazy ethical implications and things that like it's crazy to tell, like I'm telling you this and I'm going, it's so crazy, the epiphanies that I had, the amount of them that I was just going, this is life changing.
While you were looking into the eyes of a VR porn star, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which porn stars have you engaged in digital romance with?
My first go-to was Rachel Starr. You know, Rachel Starr's my favorite. And she's got a ton of videos, the VR ones on Naughty America. So if you want VR porn, go to Naughty America or Badoink VR. Those are the best ones out there by far. They have the best videos. And the acting. And here's the other thing that's really important is like they're acting, right? And so they're talking to you. And so like I've noticed that the ones where the acting are kind of bad, I'm like, this one's not that good. But then the ones where the acting are like really good, it's like, man, this is fucking real.
Does it do it like where you plug in your name so it's like, oh
no, that would
Ryan,
be awesome.
You're really turning me on.
It's all Ryan.
Just some robot voice.
Yeah.
Well, that's a shame. They need to get on that next. They need to make that happen. So
yeah, I know. Sure, I agree.
So you would recommend? So there are free VR porn websites that you can go to.
Yeah, I mean, Pornhub has all the free stuff. If you want free, just go to Pornhub. So you could have a VR set and then just have a Pornhub. But yeah, it's out there. I mean, and don't get me wrong, and I noticed somebody, a female, looks like Veronica, says physical touch is 1,000% better, and I won't disagree with you. I do agree, and trust me, with the amount of women that I've been with, I can't imagine, not being able to have the physical touch. But the worst part about the physical part of it is all the stuff that lingers after, the relationship.
The jizz. I was reading something else. I got lost for a second. I thought you were still talking about the VR thing, like all the stuff that lingers afterwards.
No, yeah, that stuff lingers after too. But let me tell you, dude, like there's a lot of stress that comes with maintaining relationships. And I'm a big advocate of like the fleeting, and I also don't think that we're meant to have like a single partner. Like I don't think that's another thing. The epiphany that I had is I don't think I could ever be faithful. I don't think I can ever get married because I don't think I can ever be faithful. And the reason being is because if I ever came into contact with a woman of porn star quality and had the opportunity, I know hands down that I would seize that opportunity. Hands down, no matter who I was married to. In fact, I'll go as far as saying that any opportunity that I have or get to have sex with a beautiful woman, I'm going to take it every time. That's me being honest, dude. I can't. I don't think I can deny that. It's like the one urge that I can't deny ever.
I respect your honesty, V.
Yeah. I can't deny it, dude. It's like I always tell you about when, like, if I was ever kidnapped by the enemy and they were like, tell us all your secrets, and then they honeypotted me, then I'd be totally screwed. Like if a chicken, like I always say, if you put a chick in lingerie that's hot, I'll tell you everything you want to know, dude.
That's how come they never even bothered sending you to SEER school. They were just like, no.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, secret clearance, forget that.
This dude can't even get a regular clearance. This guy can't even get like a PDF clearance. Like PDF available on Google clearance.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to go access the internet. So is that it for porn, VR porn?
That's just my week or weeks.
Are you done plugging VR porn?
Yeah, I'm
done. You can get your fat check now from from big VR porn.
Listen, take my word and at least try it. At least try it.
I don't watch porn. I can't try it.
No, I know.
But anybody else who partakes in pornography, it has V's this VR. What did you call it? The Oculus, the Facebook Oculus thing.
Quest 2 is what I have. The Oculus Quest 2.
Do you have to now? You have the Oculus. You said. Do you have to have a Facebook account for that? From what I understand.
I do have to have a Facebook account in fact, I had to use an alias because I don't have a Facebook account, so I had to use an alias.
I wish I had a good joke for that. I was gonna have,
I know.
I was
Why
gonna
was
say,
it, I was
are you
setting
the
you up?
person who added me the other day, Dick Buttkiss, my California voter registration name?
Yeah.
Well, I have a couple jokes. Like I said, this is my
Okay.
type
All right.
five. All right,
I'm ready for it.
these are some things that I wrote down over the last couple last couple weeks.
On a napkin or what?
No, it's on a scratch piece of paper. It was on my
Oh,
phone, but I wanted to transfer it so that I didn't have any issues when we got into the show.
Okay.
I didn't rehearse these, so if they're not funny, it's because I didn't bother rehearsing. It's not because the content sucks; it's because of the delivery, which is
Yeah.
like
You know,
90% of.
I'm always gonna back you up. So even if they're not funny, I'll try to laugh as hard as I can,
Well, I
like
appreciate that.
as believable as I can.
Well, I appreciate that, V. So this first joke, it's about V's penis and how small it is. Thanks, V. Thanks for backing me up. Did you even hear
No,
what I
wait,
said?
wait. Hang on.
There it is. Oh, hold on. Let me get you on the camera here.
Oh yeah. I like to try to do like an off-putting laugh where I'm like, yeah,
Your smokers, your
the
vapors laugh.
That's hilarious.
All right. So I'm
Something
realizing now that these aren't even jokes; they're actually just things that I noticed.
Okay, all right. Observational. Yeah, let's go with it.
but they're not like funny. They're like observational stories, which are just what stories are, anyways.
Oh, okay.
So I was watching. So I was actually watching a commercial. I wasn't intentionally watching commercials or anything, but the commercial came on, and it was that HIV commercial where it was, whatever it is. But it's like the thing that prevents getting HIV, and I noticed that like, all the people in the commercial are all gay couples, right? And black couples, right? There's no white couples. There's no white straight couples, which like it took me back, right, to when I did my EMT stuff, when I had to study transferable diseases, right? Like communicable diseases like HIV and herpes and all that. And the thing is, it's like predominantly gay couples, right? And then what is it? Black men who have sex with men is the number one person who's going to get AIDS. Number two is a white man who has sex with men. And they don't like to be called gay men because they wouldn't associate with that. They wouldn't answer to that. They had to be referred to as men who have sex with men, which to them doesn't mean gay. And then you've got, so in these commercials, it's got black couples, gay couples, and gay black couples. No one else. So that's like a joke in and of itself that they wouldn't even bother to include any further demographics beyond that. And then that got me thinking more about those commercials where they talk about have you ever noticed how on the commercials they do don't take Prevacid if you have a bleeding condition or whatever.
They
but
go
like
through, the what have yous.
right, but the one that they always include is don't take Prevacid if you're allergic to Prevacid. Right? They say don't take such and such if you're allergic to such and such. The same thing. So like first of all, who was it that they had to write that or include that in for? There were people who were like, well, you said don't take it if I have a liver condition, but you never said not to take it if I was allergic to it. So somebody did that. That's the thing now. Yeah. Pay attention on those commercials now.
Yeah, that's why they do those, is because somebody did it, right?
And then speaking of
hot sign or whatever, the sign on the coffee that says hot, they had to do that because somebody drank it and then sued, and they were like, oh, it wasn't hot, or
some lady. These are my Jay Leno monologue moments, right? I gotta go.
You gotta do the Johnny Carson. When Johnny Carson doesn't land a joke, he goes, Bamo.
I'll do this. No, that's a different thing, right? When he puts the thing up to his head and he tries to guess what's in the envelope.
That's David Letterman, right?
No, that's Johnny Carson too. He did that because remember he had the big turban on his head.
Who does the eyebrows? Is that Conan? He licks his eyebrows.
No, I think that was that was a lot of them. But I think that was David Letterman. I think you were right. But speaking of black people, here's one for you, for the racists in the crowd, V specifically. I noticed that Antifa is still around, right? But you know
What?
who's not still around? Black Lives
Who?
Matter. Have you seen Black Lives Matter in the news lately? They're just gone,
No.
right? Because of the election. Now, you could
Yeah.
also argue that it's because black people are lazier than white people. And they tap out earlier, right? There's my racist comment for the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else
Good.
do we have here? The gay couples. Oh, and then coronavirus news. Let's get that out of the way.
Uh-oh.
Something was released by John Hoskins University, right, where they create MDs out of nothing. They I actually wrote this down as Bob Hoskins.
I was gonna say Anthony Hopkins.
No, well, I put Bob Hoskins because he was Mario and Eddie Valiant.
He was my.
But yeah, they released a study about how the death count for coronavirus, right, it shot up, and exactly complementary to that, inversely complementary to that, was like heart condition, lung troubles, this, that, and the other, old age. All these things declined at the same exact rate that COVID increased. And then they looked at the numbers overall projected from last year of how many people died last year to this year. To this point, we've had the same number of deaths with the virus that we did without it. So that was an interesting thing that came from Bob Hoskins University.
Are you saying that like COVID is what are you saying here?
Although that COVID is a scam. That with or without COVID, we would have had the same number of deaths, and the people who are being attributed to COVID deaths are actually the same people who would have died anyways of other heart complications.
Yeah, because people die. Well, that's what happens is people die. Nobody lives forever. I mean, I don't know. You know, we've had this discussion. I don't know if I'm going to live forever. I mean, I haven't died yet, but so far so good.
So far so good.
So far so good.
But well, if you're gonna die, you're gonna die of COVID. Is what I think what they're getting at here. And the funny thing about that, now I wouldn't bring that up normally. Well, I probably would because it's something that we talk about regularly. But the thing is, as soon as that study released from the newsletter from Bob Hoskins University, as soon as it released, they took it down because it went against the narrative, right? So I'm gonna do my welcome to the InfoWars. I'm doing my Alex Jones there.
Alex Jones, yeah.
But it was taken down immediately because it went against the narrative. And then Fauci, what did I tell you at the beginning of this whole thing when schools shut down and everything shut down? I said as soon as the election is over, everything's going to go right back to normal, assuming Joe Biden wins, quote unquote. Dr. Fauci, the beloved virologist who's been in charge of all the shutdowns and all that shit, he says it's okay. He says it's okay for kids to go back to school now that the election's over. So
wow.
But that's it for uninteresting news. Did you hear about this?
Exciting. It was exciting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know I let it off with like, hey, these are going to be jokes, but then they ended up not being jokes. But did you hear about this? We can't do a whole episode on it because there's just not enough information on it. But this Utah monolith, are you tracking that situation?
I saw something about it, but I remember I said I made a joke about it sounding like a East German metal band.
I do. And
remember that?
And then what did I say? I said something along the lines of, it sounds more like somebody who has one speech impediment. They have a monolisp.
Yeah, monolisp.
Monolith. Which I thought that was a pretty funny joke. It's hard to convey that in a text or whatever without doing the monolith. But I think I got my point across. Apparently it was removed from Utah, right? They took it down. No one knew who had it. And then it shows up the next day in Romania with a bunch of crap drawn on it, like a bunch of like somebody took a pressure washer to it. Like, I don't know if you saw the pictures, but it looks like the swirls, like a shitty welder did it. But anyways, they sprayed it with a pressure washer in these like circular patterns or whatever. It was in Romania for a couple days, and then it was already taken down, and now it's back in California. So, well, not back in California, but now it's in California. So this thing is moving all over the place, and it reminded me of, going all the way from Utah to Romania to California, which is relatively near Utah. It's not like they brought it back to like New York, where it probably would have been stolen. Let's be honest.
Aren't there
But
a lot of Mormons in Utah?
say again.
Aren't there a lot of Mormons in Utah?
There are, and that was the joke for a while, was that it was the Mormons that put it up, but they haven't claimed credit for it yet. Nobody's claimed credit for this thing yet. I maintain that it's probably a Mountain Dew advertising campaign, and we're gonna find out here in a couple days after it's gone to like 2 or 3 other locations. Oh, this was actually for the new flavor, Mountain Dew Blue Steel or whatever stupid thing.
Remember when the Doritos and when they were doing the extreme Doritos and everything had extreme in it? Like everything was extreme. There was like Pepsi extreme, and there was like Doritos nacho cheese, but it was also extreme. And then there was like spicy hot butthole extreme, and it was all extreme. It was like in the 90s. Remember Crystal Clear? That was
my
Pepsi?
favorite flavor. Actually, I do remember Crystal Pepsi. Never was particularly fond of it, but you know what I did like? That Pepsi Blue. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, Pepsi Blue. I remember
really
that.
Good. Which was better, Crystal Pepsi or Pepsi Blue?
Let's
take
a
a poll.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think I probably like Crystal Pepsi better.
Really?
That was a rare thing.
Yeah. Well, so was Pepsi Blue. It only lasted for that year, 2003, and then it was gone.
Oh yeah.
No. You know what it tasted like the first time I tasted it? It tasted like potpourri. Like that potpourri that you put like middle-aged women put on the back of the toilet in like a basket, and then it would smell up the bathroom. It tasted like that smell.
Taste that stuff.
Well, what's done is done, and we can move forward from the indiscretions that I had back in 2000.
Yeah, fair enough.
Pre-2003.
No judgment here.
But you know what that Utah monolith reminded me of, with it going from Utah to Romania back, or then to California, was, remember that episode of Family Guy when he sends Lois, because he wants to go golfing, so he sends Lois on the scavenger hunt, and like to the store, to this place, to that place, all over the place, and then it ends up coming back to the same, like the first location that they were at. That's kind of what reminded me, like, what was the point of sending it overseas if it was just going to end up back on our soil? Where the aliens can tap into it and get a hold of us.
So is that what it is? What is it?
Welcome to the Info Wars.
Is it like, remember when you were a kid and you told your buddy that AT&T stood for Alien Takeover Towers?
No, I didn't know that. No, that's what the 5G towers are for.
You didn't know that AT&T stood for Alien Takeover Towers?
No, I did not.
You never heard that?
No, I didn't have cool friends growing up to tell me those sort of ridiculous things.
No, I was the one that was telling.
Well, exactly. I didn't know you until 2006.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Still, that was a long time. 2006. That's a good. That's a lot of numbers. That's for sure.
It's 14 years, right? It's 14 numbers, as a matter of fact.
14 years, yeah. Yeah, that's right. 14.
Right. So what are we toasting to? Because we are.
I don't know.
We're at that point in the show. We got to get ready to. We got to actually talk about what we were supposed to talk about today.
We're actually doing a show about stuff. I don't know. What should we toast to? We don't have a good. I wasn't ready for this. You caught me off guard.
Well, get back on guard.
Finally being on screen. How about that?
Oh yeah, we can do that. Let me.
Here's to me actually being live. I mean, alive. Or how? What would you say?
You being live on the screen via satellite, via satellite. So, to V joining us in a more motion picture style.
Oh yeah, there you go. Cheers, saloon. What else? Kampai.
Bumblebee tuna.
Yeah, bumblebee tuna.
Oh yeah, somebody. Jurassic Weeb, right? He was the one who suggested that I play as the in that Santa, Revenge Santa movie.
Mm-hmm.
I play as Santa, where like that girl finds me in the house, and then I kill the girl because there can be no witnesses. And then I forget, somebody told me like the whole story of this revenge plot, and I was like, I was already into it before I knew the plot. Just when I knew I got to kill a girl.
Is that the one with Mel Gibson, Fat Man?
No, and that's a new one that's coming out. And that's what reminded me of that was that particular video clip. And I thought, oh yeah, that's Mel Gibson's going to be Fat Santa.
Yeah,
the Trigger Man.
Really, that movie bombed like motherfucker.
Well, because everything is doing very poorly right now because There's no revenue to be. I mean, like nobody. So look at it this way, and I'm going to give you guys a secret. If you've not
Mhm.
ever been into torrenting, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Now is the time
I read.
for torrenting because it used to be when you would download, say a movie came out in the theaters in, say it came out this month, right? A movie came out in the theaters this Friday. I would be lucky to get a halfway decent camera copy within like a month, and then you'd wait another 3-4 months maybe sometimes to get a
Mhm.
good digital copy that somebody got. But right now, since everything is releasing directly to digital to and streaming services and all that, people are able to get that digital copy day of, and you're able to torrent it like
Yeah.
like that. But the problem
Right.
is the federales caught on to that, and now they're really cracking down on all the good, trustworthy torrent sites. I used to use
Federal?
torrents.
You talking Mexican police?
Well, it sounds cooler than the feds.
Oh yeah.
And plus, I don't want to get flagged in the video and them say, "Oh, he just said feds. We gotta start watching now."
Yeah. The
Um,
J-Rab goes up, and yeah, I got you.
But
Yeah.
yeah, they've cracked down on that, and they've started shutting down all these trustworthy sites, and it makes it harder and harder to get good copies now. But for a while, I mean, like during this whole COVID situation, it was like a torrenter's paradise, and you got to make
Yeah.
sure. I use CyberGhost, and I actually got I got a letter like a year ago from my ISP saying, "Hey, we were informed that you were downloading shit illegally," because I didn't used to use a VPN, I just didn't. And then one day I got a letter from my ISP saying, "Hey, we know you were downloading some illegal shit." And I think it was like it was something stupid, like Steven Universe or something, and something I didn't even need. I was just doing it just to do it. And once I got that letter, they said, "If we do it again, we're gonna throttle your connection and this and that and the other." So I went ahead and got a VPN. I got CyberGhost. Say again?
They'll really do that?
Yeah, they can control that shit.
No way. Who is it that does that?
All the ISPs. For me, it was Spectrum, but I've heard it happen to other people who use like any number of brands. Like in my inner circle, right? All the different people who torrent and shit.
Yeah,
They
right.
they've all gotten letters. A buddy of mine actually got a stack of them for, well, I forget what he downloaded. Old episodes. We were talking about this earlier. Sonic, old episodes of Sonic. And he got in trouble for downloading like a whole season of Sonic. So for every episode, he got a different letter. It was like a random generator or an automatic
Oh,
generated
are you
thing.
kidding me? That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
But yeah, if you get a VPN, you're
Yeah.
you're good to go. You can. Frankly, I'm not going to admit like anything over the air, but I will tell you that having a VPN is very important, and you'll make. I think it's like $30-$40 a year for a good one. For a subscription to a good VPN, in a year you'll make that money back in the content that you're able to get for free. So that is my advice to you. CyberGhost, then use Deluge is my preferred program. And then I used to use torrents.eu, and then it changed to torrents.is. That got shut down too. Now I don't know yet. I mean, there's a couple other beta mirrors that are going on.
Not that in a long time. I think the last time I pirated something, because it's still piracy, right? Like
Yeah,
we can
totally.
still refer to it as piracy. The last time I did that was when there was a website called the Pirate Bay. Do they still have that?
Yeah, it's still there.
It's Pirate Bay. Can you go on and be a pirate and pirate stuff?
Yeah, you can
It's
still.
really
I mean,
the
that's
only
what it's called. But
you can be a pirate person like us.
the problem is with the Pirate Bay is it's so like it's so untrustworthy as far as like the content that you're getting and how contaminated it's going to be, because there's still going to be people who fucking put viruses on the shit, and then there's still going to be trackers, and there's still going to be all this other stuff that you have to deal with. So I don't, and the Pirate Bay is constantly being shut down, like location server to server. I mean, they're all getting shut down one after the next, so they're obviously on the radar.
Yeah.
So the trick is finding one that is trustworthy, and torrents used to be that for me, because they would have the verified marker, whether or not, once they verified that the file was what you said it was, and then that it didn't have a virus, and then you'd have people's comments on it who verified that it was true and that it didn't have a virus and shit. So I mean, that was just the way to go, but it's gone now, so I'm back at square one. Then there's also Easy Torrents, which is like it's a TV. It's all the TV shows, so you can download TV shows for really anything. Like I found a bunch of I didn't personally, but as I understand it, you could. I almost incriminated myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I understand it, you can get all the the Star Wars, Clone Wars, Resistance, all that cool stuff. The Mandalorian, all the stuff that you're supposed to pay for, that you're supposed to pay Disney for. You can get it for free off of there. But yeah, that's what I've been into, is studying up on that. So what are we talking about today, V? Do you want to take it away?
You want me to do the reveal?
Yeah, please.
Oh, okay. Well, we had discussed a couple of things what we're going to do for the show today. I think we're going with the Prophecy with Christopher Walken. No, not that movie, not the movie The Prophecy, but the prophecy as in like prophecies in general, right? And the famous guy, the prophesizer.
Prophesier.
What is a person that prophesizes? A prophet, right? Is he a prophet?
Yeah, yeah. I guess.
Would you consider him a prophet?
Yeah.
I thought of my first instinct was I thought of him as like a royal vizier, like Jafar from Aladdin. Remember that dude? Or like Rasputin. He was a vizier, right? But
yeah, I didn't realize that dude was magic for a while. Rasputin. I didn't know he was a witch.
Yeah, he was a vizier. You know about the vizier, right?
Yeah, it's that thing that you put on to hold your belly in place.
I knew you were gonna go for that. I was ahead of you.
Well, it was the low-hanging fruit.
The royal brazier. No, the Rasputin. Wait, we're not talking about Rasputin. We're talking about
a different guy.
A different wizard with a. I don't really know much about Nostradamus. I know he had a book, didn't he, where he predicted a bunch of stuff?
He had many books, yeah.
Can I do a Wikipedia and pretend that I didn't do a Wikipedia?
Yeah, by all means, go nuts. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we do here. I'll take the screen away so that nobody sees you.
Will I stare into my phone real quick?
Meanwhile, old Tommy Miller, he brought some books to the complete prophecies of Nostradamus. All right, that's who we're talking about, is Nostradamus. And I knew who Nostradamus was going into this. I didn't know a whole lot about him, so I had to do a lot of research on who Nostradamus was. Plus, I also have this TV guide of Nostradamus, the TV show. No, I don't know. It's like a Reader's Digest of his prophecies you can't ignore. War against the Antichrist.
Like an almanac?
Yeah, pretty much. It's it was one that was probably picked up from a supermarket somewhere. Wasn't very interesting. I paged through it. It was it mostly talked about his battle against the Antichrist and like his predictions regarding the Antichrist, which I wasn't particularly like blown away by some of the interpretations of his text. It seemed like they were really reaching, and that's the problem that I noticed was often the case with Nostradamus scholars. There are a lot of people who are Nostradamus scholars who have researched at great length his prophecies and tried to tie them to what happened in the past. They've tried to find what he was talking about, what he saw in his prophecies versus what what actually transpired, events throughout history, and then tried to take that and mold it to future events of what might actually be telling. So
interesting. So are we like going to like, other than obviously discuss some of his prophecies, because to me that's got to be the most interesting thing, is to know if any of his prophecies came true, right? Like, it was real, it really happened, he said it was going to happen, and because that's what makes a prophet, right? So we have to at least qualify him, right? Like, that's what you would call it, qualify. Like, is this man a hoax? What do you call them when they're a charlatan?
A phony, a big fat phony.
Yeah, was he a charlatan? Or, I guess that's what I want to get to the bottom of. I know a little bit. I'll read it. I mean, I won't read it. I'll pretend that I'm not reading, but I guess I can't pretend now because you guys can see me. So if I hold it like this, you guys all.
Yeah, you got to hold it out a little bit.
Okay. Wait. Okay. Michael de Nostradamus, depending on the source, 14 or 21 December 1503, 1 or 2 July 1566, usually Latinized as Nostradamus, was a French astrologer, physician, and reputed seer.
Can I do my bit where we talk about his name?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you gave his name, how it was actually. Let's see here.
Yeah. Michael Day. You want to do it?
Yeah, Michael de Nostradamus. The funny thing about that is his name is Nostradamus, right? Why did he change it to Nostradamus? Unless he was in fact a communist. And this is probably the biggest conspiracy theory we've uncovered. And I know for a fact that the lamestream media isn't willing to cover this. And frankly, it's disgusting. Welcome to the Infowars. Yeah, so Nostradamus became Nostradamus when he realized that the needs of the many outweigh the needs. Or no, that's not it. It's to each according to their means. Each according to their means, to each according to their needs.
That's like the
right?
Vulcan. It's like the Vulcan. Where'd you go?
I'm still here. I'm trying to find your screen.
Where'd you go? Okay, so now that we know that he was a filthy, is that true? Was he really?
No. I mean, this dude predates communism by like hundreds of years.
So he was commie before it was even cool, is what you're saying.
He predicted communism by changing his name to Nostradamus. Is the working theory that I came up with earlier.
Okay, so he's best known for his book Les Prophéties. Les Prophéties, some French shit that probably means the prophecy, I'm guessing. A collection of 942 poetic quatrains. I don't know what that is. Allegedly predicting future events. The book was first published in 1555. So when he was like 48 or something. He died at 62, apparently. He was a Jew. Nostradamus was a Jew. I thought he was Russian. See, I always get him mixed up with Rasputin, with the Anastasia and the Tsar of Nickelback or whatever.
So these are quatrains, okay? You said that you didn't know what a quatrain was. This is a quatrain. Yeah. It's this little poem and just this little few lines of text.
Yeah.
And in French, it's a poem. In English, it just sounds like this. The leader of the French army, hoping to rout the principal phalanx upon the pavement of Avine and Slate, shall sink in the ground by Genoa, a strange nation. That is a quatrain. And he would put 100 of them together, and it would create what he called a century. And so when you're looking into Nostradamus's texts, it will say century 7 or century 3 or whatever. These are just collections. So it doesn't mean the 3rd century AD or the 3rd century from his existence, like he's predicting 3 centuries out. It has nothing to do with that. It just means that it's his 3rd collection of quatrains. So don't let that fool you, because it confused me at first. But go ahead, V. Continue with
quatrains is a dumbass word. Can we use a different word?
Well, I'm sure it's French. I'm sure it's French for something.
Well, if it's French, then that explains.
You can just call it. You can just call it a poem.
Yeah, poem.
Poem.
So Nostradamus is, which is, I guess it does that when there's an S at the end of his name. You do the extra apostrophe and then another S. So it's Nostradamus's. Family was originally Jewish, but had converted to Catholic Christianity before he was born. He studied at the University of Avignon, but was forced to leave after just over a year when the university closed due to an outbreak of the plague. These guys had to deal with the plague in the 1500s, dude.
So there's a Nostradamus brewing right now who had to drop out of college because of COVID. and he's at home writing quatrains.
Yeah, there's a prophesizer
A
somewhere,
seer.
maybe in Utah near the monolith.
That's what the monolith is,
Okay, so
probably.
he worked for an apothecary. Apparently, this is where his wizard roots probably began before he became Harry Potter. It says he worked as an apothecary for several years before entering the University of Montpellier, hoping to earn a doctorate, but was almost immediately expelled after his work as an apothecary, a manual trade forbidden by university statuses, was discovered. He first married in 1531, but his wife and 2 children died. They died from the plague. He fought alongside doctors. He fought alongside doctors against the plague before remarrying to Anne Ponsarde. That's a dumbass name, too. With whom he had 6 children. Dang, he was banging her out. 6 kids, dude? That's a lot of kids. You know how much you'd have to plow to have 6 kids?
6 times at least.
Yeah, at least 6 times. At least. That was a good one. I like that.
Thank you.
So as a result of his success, he wrote an almanac. So he did write an almanac for 1550, and as a result of the success, continued writing them for future years as he began working as an astrologer for various wealthy patrons. Catherine de' Medici became one of his foremost supporters. He published the La Prophetites, relied heavily on a historical and literary precedent. So it's possible. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of interesting stuff about him as a person, but I can't discredit him just yet. I mean, there's nothing spiritual about him, right? So that's enough for me to go, well, that's interesting. There's nothing divine that's saying that this is how he knows this stuff. So tell me what you know now that we've gotten through the Wikipedia. I mean, what I know.
Your basic knowledge.
Yeah, your basic knowledge.
Yeah, I was writing down the names of people who were in the chat so I can specifically thank them. Did you see what Megabit said about you? He said you got your webcam finally for your OnlyFans.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, let's talk about Megabit for a little bit because I always like to talk about him when he comes in the chat. No, anyways, what a good guy.
Yeah, decent fellow.
The whole thing with you know what, I will talk about him real quick because I had to do an assignment the other day where I had to talk to somebody of a different cultural background than myself and talk about their upbringing and some other stuff and how it compares to mine and just carry on a conversation like that and then write up a paper on it. And you know what, I texted Megabit just because he was the first person I thought of based on what I knew about him, what little I knew about him just from him being a friend of the show. I said, you know what, he'd be a good guy to talk to. And I texted him and I asked if he would, and you know what he said? He said, absolutely. He said, give me a time and send me a link, and I'll join you in chat, and we'll have a conversation about it. Good dude. So thank you, Megabit. I wanted to make sure I said that publicly. So the thing about Nostradamus is, and you basically summed it all up best there. I don't know if you have the prophecies that came true handy, but if you could,
just the one starring Christopher Walken.
Oh, that one, yeah. Go ahead and cue that up for me. No, I do have a good picture of Nostradamus. I don't know if anybody wants to see it. This is supposedly a legit rendition of, because he predates photography, right? But this is supposedly the most legit, most accurate depiction of Nostradamus that we have. So I want to make sure that we share that with everybody. Here we go. Right there. Mikel de Nostradami. This is before he converted to communism.
X-Man Days of Future Past. That's great.
He was the first X-Man. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
He's
man, that never gets old.
He kickstarted the career or kickstarted the whole team. Which I've never been a fan of the X-Men, but once I learned that Nostradamus was an X-Man, I came around. Especially with hair like that, it's hard not to get behind it.
Nostradamus.
All right. So that's a picture of Nostradamus. Now the truth about Nostradamus. You summed it all up, the best part of it, like his whole life story or whatever, and that's basically what we need to know about who he was as a human being. A lot of people in the chat I know who are fond of Exodus Americanus and Skinwalker tapes and those other shows would have my head and tar and feather me if I didn't make some mention of going to the early life in Wikipedia, because that's the running joke is whenever somebody says something about, you know, racism and I hate white people, or this white person did such and such. If you go to early life, that particular celebrity or that particular notable person's Wikipedia, if you go to their early life, it will always say grew up in a Jewish family, was born a Jew, practices Judaism, so on and so forth. Grew up in Israel or whatever. It'll be some kind of nod to the fact that they're Jewish. So that, like I said, if I didn't make mention of that, which I think is a very funny joke, because it's not really a joke. It just so happens that that's how it plays out every single time. Somebody will say something, and then you'll see in the comments somebody saying, check the early life. Sure enough, you go there, and there it is. Grew up a Jew. And this is part of that whole, you know, anti-Zionism.
Yeah, growing up a Jew, that's got to be the worst.
Yeah. I mean, they've already got a big nose, so.
With the braids and, you know,
I get the big nose. I don't get any of the kickback money or anything.
What do you call it? The boobalas and the mashuganas.
Yeah, I don't have any of those. I never.
What's the food? The baba ganoush.
Baba ganoush.
Baba ganoush. Those are my favorite. You know what? That's what I love about the Jewish culture so much is all of their words are so funny. Like, what was that one? What was that one that we found out actually means like a man's wiener?
Oh,
a schmuck.
A schmuck.
It's like Hebrew for wiener, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. They do have tuchas and keister. Is keister one? Keister sounds like one.
Yeah.
Or how I call my wife Bubby. I always call her Bubby.
Yeah,
Bubby.
Like yeah. My favorite is Bubala.
Bubala. Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah. Oh, the Jews, they're fun to crack.
Yeah, they are. I can't hate as weird as stuff that they do and have done over the years. I can't hate the Jews. I'm mildly attracted to Jewish women because of that personality trait, you know, where they're very what do you call it? Dominating, I guess. Not dominating. The assertive, right? They're assertive.
Yeah. Pushy. I would use the word pushy.
I like pushy. I like Filipino women. They're very pushy and like feisty. Feisty is a good word. Feisty. That's probably more accurate.
Rotten. The no, you know what? A friend of the show, Acid Draposi, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. I don't think he's in the chat, so it doesn't really matter. I don't have to sit here and suck his dick or anything, but I'm going to. He actually did this funny joke the other day that we do all the time, but he made it funny. Everything that we do is not funny until somebody else does it, and then it's hilarious. It's a laugh riot. He did this thing where he was talking about if you downplay somebody, like they're somebody who's like just an atrocious person, if you downplay their bad behavior, it can be really funny. So the whole thing was he and I went back and forth talking about, oh, that Timothy McVeigh, what a nincompoop, or oh, that Adolf Hitler, what a wacky rabble-rouser.
That's like Norm Macdonald has a joke like that, where he talks about, remember Albert Fish? He goes into all the stuff that Albert Fish did, and he goes, and he ate kids, and he did this, and he goes, well, I mean, that guy was a real jerk. Like that was like
and you say like numbskull, or like what a numbskull, and it's just what a silly goose. You know, you do that sort of stuff for people who committed like major atrocities or whatever. It's actually really funny.
Like, I'll play it.
But anyways, let's see here. So what I did want to talk about, the big thing, and why we even came across this whole Nostradamus thing, was I stumbled upon one of the poems, the quatrains, that actually somebody predicted was related to our current situation with the White House. And it was actually, we came across this like the day of or the day before the election, and then we just decided to take a knee for a month. But it was the way that it was presented to me, and then I remember I had showed you, and you were like, damn, that is really interesting. Was that this particular passage, this poem, was talking about our situation with Trump with the whole election being fraudulent and like all this,
Yeah.
which has now come to light, like all this craziness that's happened with the election and it being like undeniable fraud.
Yeah, big
Whether or
time.
not he lost or not, it doesn't really matter to me because it's been so tainted. It would be
Yeah.
hard for me to even respect. And granted, I survived 8 years of Obama as a grown
Right.
man, right? I mean,
That's
we
right.
all did. Many of us did. Some of the people in
Hmm.
the chat too. Um, we survived and we were fine. We didn't kick and scream and shout at the sky and
Yeah, I know.
all that crazy stuff.
Right.
But I have a hard time going from Trump, who had like, and granted, I'll admit my bias here. I'm a big Trump supporter, but
Yeah.
we're going from Trump, who had like he was filling arenas of people, to Joe Biden, whose only attendees were like the news with their cameras in these little circles in a high school gymnasium, and like a
And
couple
he's just
people
like,
holding Joe napkins, waving them
and
or
he's just
whatever.
like yelling at them through his like megaphone. He's like
Right.
the bull.
Oh no, that was Obama that was doing that. but but yeah, and then like they had like those cars pull into a drive-through, and there were like 8 brand new Jeep Cherokees sitting in this parking lot for this drive-in rally. And when the event was over, you would think that these cars would leave, right? If there were attendees that actually showed up to this event, but the cars stayed there overnight. Like they were clearly planted there. They were rented from some car dealership and left there. And like nobody thought to like, oh, let's get different cars. No, they got the same model, make and model and year of this Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Hmm.
So anyways, that's I find it hard to believe that we're going from Trump, who filled stadiums, to Joe Biden, who had crickets at his literal at his events. And then when we see all this stuff, this fraud and this weird stuff that's happening, that's been presented, all this evidence that's been presented, that was first, well, there's no evidence, now it's a conspiracy, and then if you believe it, you're literally Hitler, whatever the next argument's going to be. I find it hard to believe that I would be able to deal with that, like Joe Biden walking into the White House and anyone considering it a legitimate election. That's my opinion on the matter. It will taint whatever time, if in fact he does move into the White House and become the president of the United States, which has yet to be seen. I don't know yet. So, that being said, I want to read this passage and then I want to talk about it a little bit,
All
about some
right.
of the interpretations, and then the one that really won me over as like, oh, this might have been talking about our current situation. So the quatrain goes, the
Hmm.
bones of the feet and hands in shackles, by a noise a house shall be long time deserted, by a dream the buried shall be taken out of the ground, the house shall be salubrious and inhabited without noise. So it kind of it gives the impression of like, first of all, you hear stuff in there that just maybe it sticks out to you as like we laugh about the dead voters or the people, the fake fraudulent voting, and talks about the dead being, the buried being brought up again. He
Right.
talks about the house being deserted, like what happens if they haven't resolved this situation by inauguration. We're kind of in that lame duck period, right? So you hear a lot of weird things that might stand out to you. Okay.
Did you
uh
find out what that C word meant?
the what word?
The celibacy word, or celibate? What was it?
Salubrious. I don't.
Salubrious.
I don't. If you could look that up real quick while I'm
I
reading some
will.
of these,
I'll
that'd
look
be
it up.
greatly appreciated. For instance, here's some commentaries on that particular passage. I went and looked a few of them up. This one's from Edgar Leone. A bit of local drama suggesting a haunted house. They write that it happened to hear in the fulfillment of this one at a place he calls Lapicodier, 4 leagues from Lyons. So this one doesn't really talks about 12 soldiers were lodged in the house. He's giving more of a historic account that doesn't really fit the bill.
Hmm.
We've got another one from Erica Cheatham. This is certainly a description of the exorcism of a haunted house which seems to quiet down when the bones of a victim are removed. Perhaps line 3 indicates that the source of the skeleton was discovered in a dream. Exorcism was a ceremony greatly practiced in the Catholic Church in Europe during Nostradamus' time in the 17th century, which is the 1600s. The complete prophecies of Nostradamus: a ghost shall inhabit a house wherein a skeleton is shackled. After decent burial of the remains, the house shall again be at rest. So a lot of these commentaries, I think, predate some of the things that you're going to hear in a moment from the more modern explanation. And they talk about a literal haunted house and perhaps like a dream uncovering the bones of a dead body hidden in the walls, or once they remove the spirits from the house. They think it's a literal haunted house that is being described here.
Like the Frighteners with Michael J. Fox. Remember
Yeah.
that the Peter Jackson vehicle? Remember that?
Yeah, with Arlie Ermy playing the only thing that he
Yes.
ever played, except for the
Yeah.
well. I take that back. I take that back because that's unfair to the to the literal now ghost of Arlie Ermy, to accuse him of only being good for a drill sergeant position or drill sergeant role, because he did do a very good job as the sheriff in Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot. And then he did a really great job as he was like a crazy old guy on that movie, the Neighborhood Watch, The Watch, I think it was called, with Ben Stiller in them.
Yeah. And
But
what's the fat ass kid?
Jonah Hill? No, it wasn't Jonah Hill. It was the kid from a different show, because it wasn't him in the movie. It kind of looks like him, but it was this curly-haired fat kid from some other sitcom or something or another.
So it wasn't Jonah Hill. It was just another fat curly-haired Jew.
Yep. Check the early life. Someone get the early life real quick.
Yeah.
But what did you find out about that sebaceous cyst
Okay,
word?
it's salubrious, right? That's the word, salubrious, I guess is what you're trying to say. It means health-giving or healthy as an adjective, or also pleasant or not run down.
So the house shall be salubrious but empty, is what the last part says. So the house shall be healthy, not run down, looking good, looking fly, as they say in the 90s, but also empty. So, which would be weird, right? I mean,
hanging with the Cooper and all that.
But then again, the White House is attended by other people, regardless of whether or not there's a president there, and regardless of who is the president.
So is that what you're saying? Is that the White House is what we're inferring here to the house?
So that's what this next section is going to be. This next commentary that I have here is going to be talking about. Now, if you will, imagine as I read this, imagine we're talking about the White House, okay? And then go from there, all right?
Okay, all right.
The bones of the feet and hands in shackles. By a noise a house shall be a long time deserted. By a dream the buried shall be taken out of the ground. The house shall be salubrious and inhabited without noise. So, I mean, just imagine that as the White House. Imagine some of the other language, the hands shackled. Think of the government, because what happens when you don't have an executive branch at all? What would happen to some of the stuff that goes on from there? It has to be stamped off on by somebody weird. So, I mean, we're going to get into that a little bit here. So what happens is this commentary that I'm about to read to you actually comes from a psychic medium who supposedly spoke to Nostradamus. It comes from a book called Conversations with Nostradamus, His Prophecies Explained, Volume 1, written by Dolores Cannon. All right, bear with me. Dolores asks the question, hey, what's the deal with this particular passage? This chick, psychic medium, responds by saying, let me get it right in front of me so I can read it better. He is saying that this refers to various events in American history and some events to come. This is one of those quatrains with several interpretations. He says the house refers to the White House. One of the associations with this quatrain, one of the things he was seeing that he did not bring out very strongly, was the events of Watergate. The reason why he didn't bring it out very strongly is that the quatrain is associated with other events that seem to be more major and more important. He thought the people needed to be warned against these rather than just the events of Watergate. He wanted to give them a hint about Watergate because that would be a bad thing to have happened, but not necessarily avoidable. In secret, the presidents of the supposedly free country have been steadily abusing the power to a greater and greater extent. And something needed to happen to shake them up and shake up the people so they wouldn't be complacent. But he says it also refers to events in the future. There will be a time in another period of great social unrest. Listen closely. Even more major than the social unrest that occurred during the Vietnam era, to where, due to the concept he's trying to put across in the combination of two concepts that cannot be explained in one or two words. He first shows the concept of a hung jury, so that a sentence cannot be decided upon in a court. But he's applying that concept to an election, a hung election, with the nation being the hung jury, and with the vote being finally divided between two different men for president. The Electoral College will not be able to make a decision either, because the vote will be so even, so finely divided throughout the entire nation, that it will temporarily freeze the process of democracy. The hands and feet, the very core of the operation, that is the election, will be locked up, frozen. He says the people will be clamoring for whichever candidate they voted for, and it will cause a great noise across the entire nation. It will be a touchy subject due to the world situation in general at the time. Thus, if one or the other candidate is put in office, it would be at the risk of causing another civil war, or at least a revolution. He says it will be a time of great social pressure, social unrest, and even more explosive than during the Vietnam era. It will be a while before they work out a compromise and hold another election to come up with a candidate acceptable to all. One who can be installed in the White House without the threat of all the noise and confusion and such caused by a revolution or a civil war or what have you. So that's what the psychic medium said the interpretation of that passage is. V, why don't you talk about that and your opinion on that while I look up? I just want to verify when that book was written, just so that we have something to.
Well, actually, I was doing some research here on our boy Nostradamus, and I want to qualify. You know me, I'm the skeptic. I'm always like, whatever, it couldn't be, it's not paranormal, dude, And so I want to look and make sure that this guy is like legit or whatever. So what I looked up is, what predictions did he get right? Like, what did he predict that like happened? So I found something where somebody goes through it and goes through all of the predictions that are similar to things that happened throughout history that supposedly he predicted, or could be interpreted as this was his prediction. So the first one is Henry II's death, the death of Henry II, I guess, president of England? No, president of France, I guess. He predicted that. I'm not going to read those ones. I'll read the ones that we find really interesting. The Great Fire of London, apparently he predicted. Also, he predicted the French Revolution. Louis Pasteur, I don't know who the fuck that is, some gay lord probably. He predicted him, predicted that guy. Apparently, Nostradamus predicted the rise of Hitler also. And this is an interesting one. I'll read the quatrain.
Please.
So we can go there. From the depths of west of Europe, a young child will be born of poor people. He who by his tongue will seduce a great troop, his fame will increase towards the realm of the east. So that's pretty good, but it goes on. It says, beast ferocious with hunger will cross the rivers. The greater part of the battlefield will be against Hister, Hister. Into a cage of iron will the great one be drawn when the child of Germany observes nothing. So that's what they're saying. That is the prediction of Hitler. Continuing on, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Pretty huge, right? The quatrain goes, near the gates and within two cities there will be scourges the like of which was never seen, famine within plague, people put out by steel, crying to the great immortal God for relief. So they're saying that is what happened in Japan. It says, in early 1945 August, the United States dropped 2 atomic weapons on the island of Japan. Obviously, we all know that. Those of you who actually studied history. On Hiroshima and Nagasaki within 2 cities. The cities were devastated, and many survivors of the blast suffered from radiation poisoning, crying to the great immortal God for relief. Supposedly, he predicted the assassinations of John F. Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy. That one's kind of interesting. says the quatrain goes, "The great man will be struck down in a day by a thunderbolt, an evil deed foretold by the bearer of a petition. According to the prediction, another falls at nighttime. Conflict at Reims, London, and a pestilence in Tuscany." It's interesting. That last part apparently doesn't fit in with the assassination. Okay, and then the most recent one apparently is September 11th. And here's the quatrain. It says, "Earth-shaking fire from the center of the earth will cause tremors around the new city." The new city. That's interesting. "Two great rocks will war for a long time. The Arthusa, I don't know what that is, will redden a new river." That's interesting. I don't know what that word means, Arthusa. But that's the most recent one that they're saying is a prediction. Yeah, so apparently 9/11 was somebody should have consulted these if that was you know what I mean? Somebody was yeah, somebody should have.
Yeah, somebody in the chat actually just asked about the 9/11 situation, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah,
As
that was the last one.
when they asked about it, I looked it up because I remember reading some controversy about that one. That one is disputed, but it's disputed by Snopes. So I'm immediately hesitant to call that one um, fake, because if Snopes says it's fake, generally that means it's true.
Hmm.
Especially if it's political in nature, which this one isn't necessarily. But also, they could just be covering up for whatever really went down in September 11th, which I don't
Oh
think
yeah.
is what we understand
Yeah,
it to
the
be.
reptilians. Is that what you're getting at? The
Well, I
reptilians?
was gonna say either the Jews or KBR, Dick Cheney, and they needed an excuse to go to war with the Middle East. And so, anyways, without getting into that whole mess, I do have a fun game that I wanted to play, and I'm glad you ended on that one
Oh,
because
great.
it perfectly transitions into this game that I wanted to play. I actually saw it in a tweet the other day, and I was gonna play when I saw the tweet, but then I thought, no, this would be better for the Nostradamus episode, so I held off. So the
Good
game
move.
is this. It's a September 11th game. Aw, don't laugh at
Oh,
September 11th.
too soon.
Don't
Yeah.
laugh at 9/11. Come on.
Yeah, don't laugh at
Um,
9/11.
I was, I was knee deep in the
Yeah.
blood and
And
gore.
I
Um,
walked through the streets in bones.
looking for
This
my
is
brother.
for my brother. He was in
So,
North Canada. He was-
oh, come on. Don't laugh at 9/11.
Don't laugh at me.
But this 9/11 prevention game is I wasn't there. All right, I wasn't
Yeah,
there. I can't say that I was there. I went there afterwards to check out Ground Zero and see
yeah,
what it
we
was
were
all
there,
about.
Ground Zero.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
that's
there.
right. You were there with me.
Yeah, we were
Um,
together.
totally forgot that you were there. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I was gonna
sure.
say I thought I was gonna have to tell this story all by myself. Well, you take it
Yeah,
away. Take it away. What happened?
yeah.
Nothing.
Well, that was
We
it. That was
saw it. That was the end of the story.
oh. We were like, "Yep, there it is."
There it was. Yeah.
There it is.
Actually, did you know this
Wow.
about the World Trade Center? Was people whose buildings, their apartments faced the Trade Center, actually got a discount on their rent because they had to look at the Trade Center. Like, everybody hated
Wow.
looking at it. And then it got
Really?
blown up, and all of a sudden everybody's like, "Oh, we love the Trade Center," but nobody did, and everybody fucking hated it. It was
Did
just because
did they lose their discount because it was gone?
that too. They probably jacked their their rent up to normal New York City rent, which would be like for a one bedroom is like
Oh,
fifteen
well, it's
hundred
gone
or
now, so you
something.
don't have to look at it anymore.
So we were back up to 2,000 a month for your one bedroom, no toilet, and you share a communal shower. But yeah, so this 9/11 game, it's
Mhm.
it's a 9/11 prevention game.
Oh,
Imagine you, and this is not necessarily like a prediction thing. We'll kind of amend the rules a little bit. It's not about prediction as much as it is you today are transported back to September 7th,
so you're talking
2001.
talking like a 11/22/63 situation.
Yes,
Only a 9/11.
but it's real close. It's not like 11/22/63 where he's got like years to plan for it. This is
Oh,
like
okay.
you have days to plan for it. It's
Okay,
September
okay.
7th, and you have 4 days, not even. Like you have 3 good days to try to prevent 9/11.
So time heist.
How
Is
do
that what
you
you're saying?
do it? Yeah, it's a time
Yeah.
heist. So how do
Time
you
heist.
prevent it? What do you take with you? What do you do now before you leave to go back and prevent September 11th from happening?
Well, I mean, we're assuming I can go back in time, right? Like I'm going back in time,
It's
and
just
if
a
I,
one-time thing. You can only go back to September 7th, 2011 or 2001.
so I'm only a couple days before 9/11, basically.
Yes.
So I've got a little bit of time, right? I
Yep,
got a
you've
little bit of
got
time.
3 days.
I can go like play the lottery and all that. I can do that first. Make sure I win the lottery.
Make sure this
Because
trip
if I'm
wasn't in
going back
vain.
in time, I'm definitely doing that first,
Yeah,
and
make
then
sure your
I'll
trip
worry
wasn't
about
in vain.
saving people that I don't even know on 9/11.
So your answer is just not to do it. Like you just go
No,
back and
get
take care
around
of
to it. I'll
yourself.
get around to it. It'll be one of those things where it'll be December, it'll be September 10th, right? And I'll be like,
Oh, that's tomorrow.
oh, shit, that's right, 9/11. It's almost 9/11, dude. It'll be on my alarm clock.
Can you
9/11's
imagine
gonna
that
happen.
somebody you're hanging out with somebody back then and you're like, "Oh, tomorrow's 9/11." And you're like, "Yeah, like it is every year." Like this is
No, you don't
this guy.
understand. 9/11. No, I'll tell you what I do, because I like, as somebody who has no contacts with any, like I can't just like call the FBI and be like, "Hey, 9/11's gonna happen, dude. You gotta, like, how do you even call the FBI? You gotta look up on the internet and go, hey, the FBI exists." And in 2001, could you find the FBI number
Not
on the internet?
easily. Not
It
easily
was
you couldn't.
AOL.com back then, right? So I had to like call. I would have had to do something. So in order to get the attention of like Homeland Security, was Homeland Security even in existence then? We Yeah, we didn't have Homeland Security yet, right? Yeah, Homeland Security.
Homer
So
Lansky.
I
You
had
got
to
that
go.
joke. You got to take credit for that because I had my thing on mute. So they didn't even hear me saying Homer Lansky every time.
Yeah. So I would go. I would have to like do something to get their attention before I told them about 9/11, because the only way to get the information to them as just some no-name civilian would be to have to like show up somewhere, or I'd have to know something else about that day. It's not like I could just call the president and be like, "Hey, dude, today's 9/11. You gotta get ready. 9/11's about to happen, dude."
You know what George Bush would say if you said, "Hey man, today there's going to be a plane there's going to be 2 planes hitting the Trade Center and then one hitting the Pentagon and one landing in a field in Pennsylvania." You know what he would say?
What would he say?
"I know." And then he would hang up. That's right. I
Cool.
just accused
What are you
George
telling
W.
me? Why
Bush
not?
of knowing about the 9/11.
So
There's
you
nothing
think
you
he
can do
knew?
about it. I also accuse Herbert Walker of killing JFK. What do you think about that, federales who are listening in on this conversation? Go
There
ahead.
you
Go ahead, V.
the Mexican police listening in on our
Well, they have to
conversation.
outsource
That's
it.
what I picture. I picture two Mexican police officers sitting next to like an old chair, and they're all listening in on our conversation. He's like, "Oh, these
They're like,
viejos,
no, they're like, "K, K,"
yeah,
every
kid."
time. But that's why they have to outsource it, because the actual feds from the U.S. are too expensive to have them listening to us talk about Bigfoot's wiener all the time. They're
He's
like,
all,
"We're not going to pay you guys to listen
yeah.
to 2 dudes yak about fucking the dog man's penis
And it's all subtitled below because they're speaking Spanish.
in real
Yeah.
life."
Yeah. So I'd have to definitely do something to get their attention, like to get the FBI's attention, so that because even if I went to the president and like you said, like if we're assuming that he was involved and I did call the president and he was like, "Oh, I know, dude, shut up, whatever, like go fuck yourself," right? I'd be all like, "Well, that didn't work. I'd have to get a hold of somebody else to stop 9/11."
And
But also,
how do you go further up the chain of command than the president? Like, who is
yeah,
there? Interpol, maybe.
but also like why? Like and this is probably like the unethical and like, what do you call it, the unpopular like unpopular argument here. Like, why is it important for me to stop 9/11? Like, what effect does it have on me, really?
Boo.
Like, what am I gonna do? Go back and be like, all right, I saved a bunch of people I don't know. Is this gonna get me laid? Like, okay, let me ask you this: if I saved all the people on during 9/11, am I gonna get laid for this at least?
You
Is
know what?
that like?
You're in a room. You're in a room full of people who like these time wizards or time. I imagine they're like professional. They're not like wizards, but
Yeah,
these
yeah,
time agents, right? Because they wear
yeah.
a suit and tie,
Right, right.
and like well coiffed hair and like combed and shit. They're not like with a big old beard or anything. They go,
Yeah,
well, so here's the deal, gentlemen, and they call, and like there's like 7 of you in a room, kind of like the Men in Black training when they're taking the test, and they're
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
here's what needs to happen. You're gonna go. We can send you back to September 7th, 2001, and we need you to stop 9/11, and you only get one shot at it, and you know, do what you got to do now to fucking make that happen,
Right.
and you're gonna go back and do it. So they're asking you, they're like, what are you gonna do? And you're like, well, this is gonna get me laid. And they just go
Yeah,
like, so what are you gonna do? And they go to the next guy. Never mind this guy.
yeah. It's gonna get me laid. Like, really? Do I need to do this? Yeah. Yeah, they go, it's like that guy, the best of the best, best, sir, right? And I'm like eating a bag of chips. I'm like eating potato chips. Like using my lap as like my, you just like eat your potato chips and they're all on your lap. Yeah.
You know what I hate about this right now is like letting you go for. I should have gone first because Megabit just stole like a big part of my plan by saying, how about this, hijack the planes yourself an hour early. That was
That's
part of my
pretty good.
plan, Megabit,
That's
damn
pretty
you.
good.
But
And
go
I'm
ahead.
over here like, why would I even do it in the first?
Meanwhile, there's
What
me
the
trying to like
heck?
actively prevent a global act of terrorism or whatever, or an inside circle, fucking, um, whatever. Anyways,
Yeah.
so here's.
Mhm.
I'll tell you what. Are you gonna do it, V, or no? Are you just gonna totally blow it off, Sanchez?
Yeah, no, I totally blew it off unless it was
Okay.
gonna get me laid.
Okay. So I have it written down. Your plan was step 1, lottery. Step 2 was get the Fed's attention, and then it trails off. Like I didn't have anything after that.
That's why I lost interest. My ADD kicked in, and I was like, "What's going on? Oh shit, the Matrixes are out. I can watch those in theaters."
Go catch the movie. Uh,
Yeah, I go to the movies to watch all the movies in the theaters in 2001.
and then that way you could come back into the future and be like, you'll never guess what happened. I totally caught Osmosis Jones in the theaters. I remember I saw that movie in the theaters, as a matter of fact. It was a really good movie. I enjoyed it. It actually was not very good. That's a lie. That's not even a good one to pick. You
It's
just
like a
happen to
bad
be.
movie. I went and saw
Jeepers Creepers. in theaters.
Tower Heist with Eddie Murphy and Ben.
The time cops are like, you were supposed to be doing a time heist, not a tower heist viewing party. Like they just browbeat the shit out of you for it.
9/11, Ocean's 11 is playing at the theaters.
Oh yeah, you fucked up, V. Millions of people died, V, because of you. So, anyways, you're supposed to say, I don't think that's right. I don't think it wasn't millions. Um, which is a true story.
Oh man.
So, anyways, Jay Coop actually called out Megabit, and Megabit admitted that he didn't realize what happened, or didn't realize what was going on. So, or what to do next with that. So, I'll tell you how I plan to do
Yeah,
it
there was a couple plans involved.
because there were some hiccups, and it was brought up by Jay Coop. Was that you'd have to you could only hijack one plane, and that you'd have to convince other people to hijack the other plane. So here's the thing. I am aware that there are some, because this is back when we were young on the internet, right? Because in 2001, I was a junior in high school. So I wouldn't be able to enlist my junior friends, right? My 16, 17-year-old friends, right? To do this. Even if I'm adult version of me, I wouldn't be able to enlist young me and my friends from the time to do it.
Right,
so
right.
I would have to find people who were a little bit older, who were willing to go to the back. Now, remember,
Okay.
this
Okay.
is the time that of that. Remember that dude who went back in time and he sent out the classified ad saying, "Hey, I've only done this once. You need to bring your own weapon." Remember that guy?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So this is a time when there were still conspiracy theorists who were actively posting. First of all, in the classified ads of newspapers, you can find them there. Go to a major, because if I have 3 days, first thing I'm doing, and if I'm actively trying to thwart this terrorist attack,
Yeah, yeah.
unlike my counterpart here,
Yeah.
he, I would go to a major city, and I would find the nearest newspaper, go to the classified ads, and I would look for the weirdest shit like that, right? Like I would look for the dude who's like looking for somebody to join him at some conspiracy
Oh, okay.
convention or whatever, and I would go because these are the people who are going to believe you, right? You're not
That's
going to be
cool.
able, like you said, you're not going to
You're
be able to
looking for
go.
Rorschach Watchmen is who you're looking for.
Right. I'm looking for the weirdos because I know I'm not going to be able to convince any level-headed person that I'm from the future, and that I'm trying to stop a globe like this major attack in New York City that's going to like shape the future in a major way, creating this Homeland Security Department of Homeland Security, and create
You
the
got me for that
TSA
one. Got me off
and
guard.
all this stuff, and it's going to create this gigantic hassle for everybody, not to mention the millions
Yeah,
of lives that are going to be lost in the process.
yeah.
I'm going to have a hard time convincing anybody that that's true, except for the weirdos, right? So I'm going for those people first, and I'm going to look for any kind of conventions. I'm going to look for the guys on the street corner who are talking about the end is near. I'm going to rally a bunch of troops like that, okay?
Right.
And I know, because the first thing you got to do, and I guess I should have mentioned this, is before I left, I would write down the flight numbers because I don't know them off the top of my head. And I would
Yeah, I
find
don't know
out
them
what
either.
flights, what times
I
they
would have totally
leave.
messed that up.
Yeah, I would find out all that information before I left, and I'd bring it back with me. I don't necessarily need the names of the people who are on the plane. If I could get a hold of that, that would be great. If not, which I know it's available, you could look it up right now. But if I could get my hands on that, that'd be great. I would just call all those people up and I would say, hey, listen, like I know you're not going to believe me, but here's the deal. Don't get on the plane on September 11th, the morning of September 11th, because your plane is going to be hijacked, whatever. And then hopefully they'll listen. They probably won't, but I'll have done my best there. That's going to be step one. Hang up and be done with it.
Right, right.
You might get some people who are like, who just get so, what's the word? They're so, not suspicious. What's the word when you're like afraid of the number 13? Superstitious.
Superstitious? Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have people who are superstitious who are like, yeah, I'm just not gonna get on the plane that day because some stranger from New York City, where you
Right.
know, like he called me and said, don't get on this plane. And I haven't even ordered the ticket yet. You know, like some of these people
Yeah.
are like I was planning on going on a trip, but you know, this stranger called me from New York, so
Dang.
maybe they
Yeah,
won't.
that's good. That's a good move. Yeah.
And
Good
then I'm
move.
going to take my legion of weirdos and I'm going to assign us each a plane. And I'm going to say, hey, listen, you and two of us on each plane, because security was lax back then. You could get stuff on, because I remember we talked about this with the DB Cooper, right? You
Hmm.
could get on a plane with whatever you had on you and nobody cared. It wasn't until DB Cooper that they started kind of doing some kind of security. And the security, though, still, it's on September 10th, September 11th, was pretty lax. So you could bring weapons on, you could sneak
Hmm.
stuff on, you can get access to that. We would have all this stuff laid out and have the plan of how we were going to get these weapons onto the plane, and maybe access the cargo hold where we could get to our weapons if we had to stash them in carry-ons, whatever. And then we would end up hijacking the planes first. And we would find out, you know, we would know who it was because they were all Arab dudes. So, you know, you single out the Arab dudes. You may end up looking like the next Hitler.
Oh,
I
yeah.
did. But guess what? You saved countless lives. Not
So you're
countless, I mean,
saying
there's a
that's a
number.
small price to pay?
Yeah.
Small price to pay to save the people of 9/11?
Yeah. Needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, is the way I see it, you know.
So
But also, I may end up in jail for the rest of my
yeah.
life, which is okay by me.
Yeah.
I may not,
Really? That's solid
because
conviction, man. I respect that. I
thank you.
respect that. I know for sure. Like, I'd like to think that I'd go, but I don't have enough empathy. I think I lack empathy or something because I'd go back and be like, what, 2001? There's so much I can do. 2001 kicked ass, dude. Before 9/11, that whole year was awesome.
Yeah, we had a great time until that damn terrorist attack ruined everything.
Yeah, you're ruining everything. Yeah, 2001, man. That was great.
Would you just stay
Ye-
there? Would you just
The
go blow
year,
it off and then just stay there and get a
yeah, I
mulligan?
probably would just stay there. Yeah, I just hang out. Yeah, I'd totally hang out in 2001.
I like Megabit says, didn't the Pentagon get hit? I wouldn't stop that. No, Megabit, here's the thing, and here's why you would. Because they used that to cover up the $1 trillion that was lost. Remember? It was like or maybe several trillions or whatever. Yeah, okay, so Patrick O'Floyne actually replied. That's actually the part where they used that to cover up this major loss that they had taken. That was just like nobody had an answer as to why this money had gone missing, and they used this plane hitting to cover that up. So if you stop that,
pulled
all
a
of a
Fight
sudden they
Club,
have to answer. They have to answer for
right?
that.
That's what it sounds like. They pulled a Fight Club.
Yeah.
Remember on Fight Club at the end when he
Well,
blows
don't
up all the
spoil it for the people who
trans.
haven't.
Look, if you haven't seen Fight Club, dude, like, get your life together, dude. Get your life together. Watch Fight Club. You know, there's a bunch of movies that you need to watch, man. I'll tell you right now, Fight Club should be at the top of it if you haven't watched it yet.
Can you imagine if you're as soon as I'm arrested and brought out of the plane or whatever with my crazy end is near guys or whatever, like, we get brought out of the thing, and they're like, all the cameramen and the reporters are reaching over and they're like holding their microphones and they're like, "What do you have to say?" I say, "Audit the Fed," as I'm walking by. So, Bill, Bush knew about 9/11, or Bush knew that this was going to happen. Like, I start spouting off all I end up being the reason for all these conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Because I just happen to say all of them. The Illuminati is real, and it's all lizard people and Jews. Tom Miller, local crazy guy, CEO of Hitting Kids.
Reptilians and shit.
Say again.
So start ranting about reptilians as it Illuminati and the reptilians are working together.
If they thought this, if they didn't think that this dude was crazy now, like, here's the reporter. If you didn't think he was crazy, by God, now you do. Like, and like my whole effort was for nothing. Like, everyone's like, oh, he's just a crazy person. He's not a hero. Like, you'd have to do it like in a way that, like, I mean, I'm sure there would be instances, like, probably, I mean, we're relying on, and here's the downfall to my plan, is we would have some of the crazy guys probably fuck it up, right? Because they're not like trained for this sort of like this level of crazy like we are, and they're not like, they're just some dude we found in the classified ads or perhaps on the corner, shaking a leg with a sign that says the end is nigh.
Is that what you call the uninitiated, right?
Yeah, right. They're pawns in my game that I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
So probably one of them's gonna fuck it up. Maybe two of them. Maybe two planes. And what ends up happening is while I'm in jail, or in like the holding cell, and they're interrogating me or whatever, these other planes end up crashing. One of them in Pennsylvania, and the other one, and maybe one of the trade centers goes or whatever. I don't know. Or probably the Pentagon one would be the one that ends up going. But because just my luck. But anyways. Then that would be huge for me because I'd be like, I told you assholes. Like, I tried to prevent this damn thing. And you guys still fucked it up. Or like the World Trade Center would still go down. It would still blow up because they had it set on a timer instead of a remote type detonation situation. Yeah. So maybe we catch them all red-handed, but it's a price. It's a price I'd be willing to pay. Even if I end up being crazy, because, it's one thing to be famous. It's probably equally as cool to be infamous. And if I'm the guy who created all these all these conspiracies, and also in the meantime prevented the deaths of thousands of people or whatever, that's cool. Like, I'll take that, because I'd rather that than have to like perform on stage in like a revealing like shirt, like low cut V shirt with like big hair like Justin Bieber, having to lip sync my own songs and shit. Like that's rookie ass what'd you say earlier? That's some whack ass poo butt shit. Me, I'm a one and done. Like, I would rather just do my thing and be done with it, and then people be like, oh, that Tom Miller.
That is some weak ass buster.
That's what it was. I said weak ass poo butt shit. Weak ass buster shit. That's better.
That is we. It's like the best thing you say when someone calls you and like they tell you some bad news, and instead of like sounding all sad about it, you're just all, that is some weak ass buster shit.
What did I say? It was...
Weak ass what?
No, I mean earlier when you said something. You were like, oh, that sucks. I'm like, that is some. Or you said some bad news, and I said, oh, that is some whack ass. Crappy, or I don't remember what I said. It was something comparable, and that's why you said whack ass, buster ass, poo butt ass, rookie mistake.
Oh my god, that's good.
These are the conversations you guys miss before we go live when we're
yeah.
That was a fun game. I like that game.
Yeah, that
the
was
9/11 prevention game.
I find it intriguing that you would do the good deed. You're like the I don't know. I was trying to liken you to some kind of hero, but I couldn't think of it.
No, don't do that.
You're like the Marty McFly of 9/11.
No, I'm more like the Biff Tannen of 9/11. All right, I'm the good guy. If we learned one thing, it's that Biff Tannen was the good guy. But yeah, you got to, man. I know better. I know that you would do it because I know many of us. I'm not going to say who I don't think would.
No, okay, here's what I'd do.
Go ahead.
I'd wait until the last minute. It'd be like right before the planes leave, and then I'd call the news. I'd be like, dude, check this out. You know what I heard? Because
that's a reliable lead.
I'd call
hey guys,
Wolf
you know what I heard?
From the future. Just because I like his name, Wolf Blitzer, and I'd go, hey, Wolf. Mr. Blitzer,
I've Blitz. Hey, Blitzy.
Yeah. And he'd be all, who's this? And I'd be like, that's not important. I've got some information for you. Today is 9/11. And he'd go, I know. Shit. And then he'd probably hang up on me or something.
This is CNN, dude. We know what day it is.
Yeah.
Of any news, we like the one thing that we know definitively is the day. All right. Happy September 12th to you, sir. Hangs up the phone.
I don't
Not even the right day.
Tell of what happened. I just tell him it's 9/11. Don't you understand? Today's 9/11.
You're like the worst time traveler for preventing stuff. Oh, I'm imagining when you said you would call the news, I was imagining you saying, like, you get them on the phone and you're like, hey guys, I got a hot tip for you.
Is Wolf Blitzer
from the future. You know, like immediately hang up on you. Have like no tact in delivering the message. Like instead of like leading or like burying the lead as they call it or whatever, be like, hey, I have a hot tip and I really need to give it to the top dude right now. Like instead you're like, hey dude, I got a hot tip from the future. I'm from the future. My name is V. And they're like, everything about this sounds fake. like right off the bat, you're like a crazy person. Listen, no, I'm not crazy. The end is near. Like, just hang up. Because that's like, that was the straw. That was the last nail in the coffin where they're like, the end is like near. Come on. Like, I saw that on the way over to work.
You know, we always joke about that scene on Batman where he goes, who was that? Just some nut.
Just some nut. Can you imagine though? You're like at the last second, you say the plane is going to crash into the World Trade Center. Like you get the information to them, and they hear it as they're hanging up. And this is like before caller ID was like commonplace, and for whatever reason, the phone that he had on was just like it didn't have it on there. It was just like
it was
the
a
one
rotary.
It was just like one in the hallway or whatever. Because that's all you had was like the only working phone number now when you looked up CNN was like 12 a hallway. Now that's like pushed into the janitor closet. It's not even, it's a janitor's phone at this time. But this dude, like he hears that and it sits in the back of his head and he leans back and he's like, man, the crash in the world, 2 planes crashed in the World Trade Center. That's a pretty radical claim. But he's just like thinking about it, but he knows like the rest of the stuff you said, and he's kind of like trying to process how much he can believe because of how crazy you were leading up to that. He's just like, That's when somebody says, "Who was that?" And he's like, just some nut. And then like 2 hours later, then all of a sudden they're reporting on this happening, and the dude's in the back of the room like this, just like I knew better. I should have done something. And then you put it all on him.
That's actually great. That's great. That would totally work for me, because then it just puts it all on him.
And you did your part. You tried.
Like, hey, I told someone, man. I was there. Then I can eat my popcorn watching Ocean's 11 in the movie theater with a clear conscience.
And you're sitting there like John Goodman on Big Lebowski, when he's like, what does he say? He says something. I forget what he says, but he's like so matter of fact about it. But you're sitting there eating your popcorn, like, I told him. I did what I had to do. I upheld my end of the bargain. Now I'm gonna watch Ocean's 11 and Osmosis Jones, a double feature.
Yeah, double feature. Nice.
Now that's gonna bother me. I can't remember what part that's from.
So have we determined if Nostradamus, Nostradami, that commie, if he was legit? Was he legit, or was he not, or was he too legit to quit?
Was he too legit? Too legit to quit.
I can't believe you did that.
Well, I had to. You said you did the joke. I had to pantomime. That is some weak ass, poo butt ass, rookie ass shit. No fade having ass.
No, said Rudy Poo. You said Rudy.
Poo butt ass, rookie, Rudy Poo ass shit.
Oh my god.
This is the part of the episode that got us the TVMA rating, just because we kept saying poo butt ass, rookie ass. So yeah, Nostradamus. I don't know. For me personally, I'll go first, since normally I make you go first.
Okay, all right.
I think Nostradamus pumped out. So it's a numbers game for Nostradamus. Okay, so he pumped out literally hundreds, like thousands, really, thousands of these prophecies.
His quatrains.
Yeah, that are very obscure. Like, for instance, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to randomly pick one, and you tell me if you can attribute it to something.
Okay, all right.
When the fish that is both terrestrial and aquatic by a strong wave shall be cast upon the shore, with his strange, fearful, horrid form, soon after the enemy shall come to the walls by the sea.
Oh, that's the plot of Pacific Rim.
There you go. So
stop Pacific Rim before we all do.
But I mean, I could sit here, and I already closed the thing. I don't remember what page it was on, or what quatrain or century it was in, as it were.
Yeah.
I could probably sit there, and I could pretend, I could feign like Nostradamus scholar status and say, why study Nostradamus's works and but like, you could sit there and you could attribute any of his pieces of his quatrains to really any number of things that have happened, or just say, well, what he's talking about here, based off of previous, and frankly, nobody's going to know unless you're talking to some other Nostradamus scholar. They're not going to know that this particular theme or this particular word that he uses means anything in any prediction that came true. So I could sit here and say, well, the fish actually represents the refugee, as if you look in century 17, quatrain 38, you'll see that he also refers to the fish, and one proven prophecy was the refugee crisis after the first Gulf War. Yeah, like, you could sit there and do that. And I think even if you were doing it from a very speculative, very generic position, you could still say, well, realistically, that does sound a little bit like the refugee crisis after the first Gulf War. And I could actually say that the fish washing aboard in a strange land would be the refugee coming into a new country. The waves crashing would be the war or the conflict that was taking place, blah, 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 blah. And I could go on and on. And I think for Nostradamus, it was a numbers game for him where you just pump out enough of them, because if you look at his the ones that seem to tie in to an actual event, statistically it's insignificant, because you read off what, like 7 of them, and those weren't even just like the 7 that were pretty close or that like people think were legitimate. Those were like the 7, period. Like those were the 7 that people think in toto came true, not even just the 7 that were interesting. These are the 7 that came true. So if you look at that statistically, it's like I said, it's insignificant. 7 out of maybe 2,000. That's I'm terrible at like dividing off the top of my head, but that's a horrible percentage of success.
Yeah. Oh, that's not very good.
So
that's like
for him
point something percent.
Exactly. So for you to say Nostradamus was this prophet, this seer who like really nailed, like he really killed it 7 times out of several thousand or a couple thousand. That is some weak ass, buster ass. no, it's silly. It's a statistical insignificant whatever. It's I don't think he was for real. I think he was pumping out poems, and he got lucky 7 times out of 2,000. He was a
bullshitter, huh? That's interesting.
I do.
That's
I think, or, oh gosh, I hate to say it, given a long enough timeline, every single one of them could come true. Maybe people just haven't been able to tie certain ones. I think until we have somebody who legitimately can translate his predictions into actual events that like are indisputable, kind of like what we saw with that medium. I think that one was pretty good. I think they answered a lot of questions, and this, oh, by the way, that book came out in 2013, so this was way before this current situation happened, and it was after the Bush and Gore thing. So it's kind of interesting that they would be talking about the White House and this situation almost to the letter. This medium predicted based off of what she heard talking to Nostradamus. If that were to be true, I'm inclined to believe that psychic is probably okay. Let me rephrase that. I think Nostradamus is probably just off the cuff. I think he's probably full of shit, and very very lucky, and very lucky. Second, I think given a long enough timeline and better interpretation of the text, he could be right. He could be 100% right. We just don't know, because we don't have the people to interpret it properly, and we don't have the timeline. We're only working with like 400 years, and then alternately, I think maybe that psychic had a better. I think utilizing a psychic to talk to the Nostradamus is probably our best bet. If we can do that, I think that's the only way that I will believe that Nostradamus was truthful, is if we have a psychic mediator who can kind of be like, listen, this is what he meant, but he was constrained by what he saw at the time, and he didn't understand modern government. He didn't understand modern technology.
To call out his bullshit is what you're saying.
Say again? I'm calling him out as a bullshitter?
No, you'd call in a bullshitter to call out his bullshit.
Yes. I would say that if this psychic is legitimate, I'm inclined to believe that Nostradamus is real. If her prediction based on her conversation with Nostradamus is real, I will sit down and I will recant my negative Bigfoot score that I just gave Nostradamus. Which I think she might be. I think she's on to something, and I think we're going to see in the coming months, if come January, I'll tell you what, January 20th, if we don't have a president in the White House, a legitimate president in the White House, settled with, in like confirmed and without any doubt or whatever, or without any like reasonable doubt. I'm not asking for like beyond a shadow of a doubt. I'm asking for like something somewhat legitimate where I can be like, all right, yeah, maybe all that bullshit was fake about the election fraud. I'll accept it. I'm not happy about it, but I'll accept that Joe Biden won. But right now, there's just so much that I find it hard to believe. So if
Right.
January 20th comes around and we have a legitimate president where there is no like still glaring, obvious, blatant fraud that is causing me to doubt, then I'll admit that I'll take back my score, my negative score of Nostradamus. I hate doing this because I love giving all the weird shit like five
Yeah,
Bigfoots because normally I
I'm
believe
surprised.
that shit,
Not
but
expecting you to. I was not expecting that, dude.
well,
I was not expecting you.
I had to read a bunch of Nostradamus, and like a lot of it just seems like nonsense. And statistically, I'm a data guy, so like I got to look at the raw
Yeah.
data, and when you consider it from a statistical standpoint or a data standpoint, his numbers aren't very good, to say
Mm.
the least. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. Based on the things that I've read so far, I'm inclined to think maybe he might be legit. And here's my logic is that I think that predicting history and predicting the future isn't that hard. I don't think that it's something that like makes you like magic or anything. I think that somebody that's smart enough has an understanding of like anthropology, psychology, and society, right? We'll say those three things. If you have a general knowledge of those three things, or at least enough to where you can understand propensity, and I've talked about this before. I have this theory. People they're compelled by their propensity, and so they have these things that they do innately, and it's kind of like it's ingrained in them, right? Like okay, here's an example, like your YouTube recommendations. Like that's driven by your propensity, right? Like you go and you like all these videos and I like this video and I like that video. And so YouTube says, "Oh, well, because of your propensity to those videos, you're probably going to like these videos." And usually you do. And so because of the algorithm, right, you're able to kind of predict what you're going to like. And so, in that essence, I guess with computers, right, with this nerd shit that we have these days, performing all these calculations and whatnot, they're able to predict that. And I think that if you have an understanding of psychology and like human culture and like the way things will progress in society based on human propensity, I think that predicting the future, or at least the future of specific human beings, is not that hard. And I think that like if you know someone or even like a culture, like let's take like a culture, let's talk about the Black American culture. Like I'm pretty
Oh,
sure that
geez.
let's say predicting what they're gonna do is not that hard. Like in really any culture that has like stereotypes and like cliches that surround their entire culture, it makes them even more easy to predict because that's what their propensity is, are these stereotypes that they've perpetuated for decades, right? And longer than decades, right? Hundreds and hundreds of years, some people. So I think if a person were to recognize that, they could go, well, based on these patterns, you can say safely that this is probably going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that's what Nostradamus did and that he went and was like, oh, yeah, because human beings know this. I know that this is going to happen, but I'll just word it weird so people get confused by it, right? Because what kind of asshole would do that? Like, that's why I laugh about that meme that I posted today where it was like, some idiot on
Yeah,
the internet
right.
will predict that I say some shit. Like, why did he do these quatrains and not just say, hey, this is what's going to happen, right? Like 9/11 is going to happen, dude. You know what I mean? Like he's the one that blew it. If he was really predicting 9/11, he didn't like help anybody. He was just like, look, here's a weird way to explain it. You guys figure it out.
So
He pulled
here's what I want to push back
what
at you.
he did
I'm,
what I would do.
right. I want to push back at you a little bit because,
Okay.
and you know me, I'm on the Nostradamus was a big fat phony bandwagon right
Right.
now.
Yeah. Okay.
But I will defend him
Bro.
in this way. Okay. He was limited. You talk about understanding, and I agree with you 100%. If you have the information, and you have the knowledge about anthropology, about society, about the history, about other cultures across the world, yeah, it's easy to draw conclusions and create because history has a way of repeating itself, right?
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
in cultures like, hey, this one is just sprouting up, it's going to go through this phase, this phase, this phase, and this phase before it hits this point, and then we can reasonably assume based on the type of people who live there and what they're working with in the modern advances, this is what we can expect from them. That's a totally reasonable thing and absolutely could be true. You're talking about a guy who was a product of his time in the 1600s. He didn't have the internet. He was lucky to have a library of books, because this is a time you couldn't just, hey, I want to read this book. Let me download it, right? Because we can do that now. But back then, I need to read a book about such and such. You had to go find somebody who had access to that sort of thing. You had to find somebody who maybe it might be the next, city over. And then you had to go find and meet somebody. You couldn't just pick up the phone. I mean, he was very limited with what he was able to know. So he had to go based off of what he knew. And he was still assuming these quatrains are true, like the ones that we talked about, the 9/11, the Hiroshima, Nagasaki, the king in France. If we're assuming that these are true, he's going off of information from China, or not China, Japan, New York, in a country that wasn't even, I mean, it existed. It wasn't a country yet, but it was a new settlement at the time. It wasn't even, there wasn't a New York. So these are things that he didn't know and nobody knew, right? Nobody had that information. And if they did, it was like the one guy in town who was just well-read and maybe spent a lifetime in the East India Trade Company, right? And he just happened to talk to those people. And he's like, oh, I know a lot about the Japanese or whatever because I talked to him. So you're kind of like, you're limited by who, he would have to know everybody, have access to a vast library that is vaster than maybe he even, kind of like what Heisenberg says, and I say this all the time, not only is the universe stranger than we understand, it's stranger than we can understand. A lot of this information was beyond him. Kind of like John of Patmos, right? When he wrote Revelation. You can look at some of that information in Revelation and go, what on earth was he talking about? But then when you start...
he didn't even know what he was seeing, right?
Right, so he related it to what he knew. And that kind of goes further into what you said about the poems, about how he was kind of a dick. He could have just said, well, some building in a city called New York is going to get hit by planes or whatever. By writing it poetically, it sells it because it markets it. Like, nobody wants to just read facts. That's boring, right? You don't want to read a pamphlet that says some city called New York. It's just like science fiction, or back then it would just been like a fantasy or whatever. They would have read it like, this is weird. I don't know what most of these words are. They don't mean anything to me. So what he did was he wrote it in a fantastic way that people would read them. But then also it gives them plausible deniability, right? So if he were to say the King of France is going to die in a jousting accident, if it didn't happen, they'd be like, hey, what's the deal? Like, the year is 1943. I'm just now looking back through Nostradamus's works, and no king in France was ever killed in a jousting accident. But back then he would have said, the way he wrote it, it was kind of like ambiguous enough that it kind of gave him a little bit of the ability to deny it if it didn't come true. Not that anybody was coming after him like, hey man, how come...
I'll accept that. I can get behind what you're saying there. I think that's a good argument, dude. I think I have to concede on that one, because if that's the case, and I didn't consider that, if that's the case, then maybe I might have to backpedal a little bit, because I don't know if I would say that he knew what he was talking about. Maybe he was just some writer that people took that way, because it's not like he ever gets into religion or says God told me this or I was told by this. Not like he was out there going, these are prophecies, this is going to happen. It's not like he was out there doing that. It was just like poems, right? So if that's the case, then I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm going to say 3 Bigfoots. I'm middle of the road on this one. I think I have to kind of lean towards, there's got to be something to it, because first of all, why do it in the first place? But second of all, there are some conclusions that we can draw from the things that he said at this point. At our time, I guess you could say, in our era, or what do you call it, the 20th century, or what century are we in again?
21st.
21st century Fox. That's where we're at.
Yeah, they couldn't change it because it would just be, well, I mean, I'm sure they can now, but they can't. It's hard to change a brand. I guess they assumed that they weren't going to make it to the 21st century. So they're like, we'll just call ourselves the 20th Century Fox. We'll be gone by then. 9/11 will happen. We won't exist anymore.
9/11 will happen by then. Yeah.
And then you're like, wait a minute. How did you know? Turns out the CEO of Fox was sent back on a mission by Time Wizards. So he knew the deal. Yeah. You know what? I'll say, I'll meet you halfway. I'll say 2. Because like I said, I think that psychic might have been onto something. And I think, and especially the way she phrased it and the timing, it's hard for me. If I didn't know when that book was written or when that interview was conducted, that would be another thing. But once I found out, I mean, I still kind of believed it before I knew when the book was written. But now that I know that it was written in 2013, kind of like a dry time for politics, right? We were looking at we had just had the second Obama election. So there wasn't any talk of another political thing. Donald Trump hadn't even entered the arena at that point. There was no inklings of any kind of upheaval of the system. But some of the things that she said really stuck out to me as like, that was a really lucky, she either got really lucky several times in her claim, or she was legitimately talking to somebody who saw a prophecy that is going to happen and we're kind of living through right now. And I'm not, and like I said, I'm not a disbeliever. Obviously I believe this psychic, so I'm not one to say, nah, that's not real, that doesn't happen.
It's not paranormal, dude.
I believe it. I believe that people see the future all the time. I believe that there are prophets. I believe that there are seers. I believe that there are. I believe the way that they do it is through demonic bargains, Faustian bargains. But because we know that demons offer information unknown as part of a bargain, and there are several of them that do that. Most of them do that, as a matter of fact, and they can tell the future and past events and all that sort of stuff. I think that that's probably what happened. Is this psychic got the actual and was able to talk to, because that's another thing, divining and talking to the dead. That's another skill that people use Faustian bargains in order to get access to. I think that's what happened. I think this chick legitimately talked to Nostradamus. Nostradamus legitimately had a gift of predicting. And they swapped the information. She said, hey, what's the deal with this one? Talk to me, Goose. And he said, all right, listen up. So this is what I saw. Now that I'm able to kind of like see what's going on, and I can kind of see how your government works, and I've had like all this time to see stuff, I can tell you what I saw now. And what I was referring to was the White House. And what I'm talking about, and we've seen the Watergate thing, I think that would be a pretty good example, but that's not what I was talking about. What I was talking about was something else. And I'm talking about something beyond, like, forget what you saw in the civil rights era. Forget what you saw in Vietnam. What's going to happen is way bigger than that. And I can't even describe to you, like, the magnitude of it, like that sort of thing. And the timing was so good that it's very hard to discount her, given what's happening right now.
Right.
That's my opinion. Now,
yeah, fair enough. So I can't argue that.
I'll meet you at 3.
Yeah. All right.
So 3's for Nostradamus.
We're not. That's interesting. This show, we're not going all out with our 5 Bigfoots. We're usually so generous with our Bigfoots. Even me lately, when we do like some of the more recent stuff, I'm like 5 Bigfoots, dude. Fucking 5 Bigfoots.
Well, I won you over finally.
Yeah, this time around I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of things about Nostradamus. Like, we know about Nostradamus. He's a household name. Like, if you say Nostradamus, people know who you're talking about. Yeah. This isn't something that we're introducing to people. We're just kind of like elaborating on it. So if we were to be like 5 Bigfoots, it would probably hurt our image a little bit if we were automatically like, this fucking fairy tale that you've been told your whole life, it's real or whatever. People just assume Nostradamus is it's a hard one to sell too. Psychics and prophecy and all that shit.
I'd probably like him better if he hadn't have killed the Tsar of Russia.
Well, I would have liked him if he wouldn't have sold out to communism, the fucking pinko. All right, let's do this real quick. Everybody who's still in the chat, maybe if you're still there, and I hopefully will get all of you because I've been trying to write you down as you go along. Mike, Buzz, Megabit, J Coop, Jurassic Weeb, who actually left earlier. Wong, Karamasano, and I fucked that name up, but I know I'll recognize. There we go. Wong, Car Y Superfan, XOXOXOXOXOXOXO, Jugs, Patrick O'Floyne, Veronica, Robin, Still Nobody, VS, who joined us late in the game, I believe, and Jamis, who felt compelled to come join us because I went into his.
We had a big turnout today, huh?
Yeah, we did. We had, I think our high was 16 at one point. But yeah, Jamis felt compelled to join us today because I went into his stream earlier today, and all I said in his chat was, "What's up, cracker ass cracker?" And then nice. I had to leave because I was in the middle of class, but I popped in and I said hi, and they were playing Phasmophobia. But yeah, if you haven't already, go check out. Here's where we'll do the shilling business. Oh, and then Count Rhythm. Count Rhythm is here as well. I don't think I said anything. The shilling business. Yeah, go check out James if you haven't already. You Had Me at Gaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/YouHadMeGaming, where he plays a lot of Phasmophobia, some Predator, some Dead by Daylight, a couple other games that he's had on there lately. If you didn't catch it already, where a lot of our fans today, the new fans at least today, came from, I was on an episode of Exodus Americanus not too long ago. Actually, November 21st, I believe, was when I was on there. Part of the Great American Houseboat with Roscoe Jones and Pius Tusk. They have a program. I believe it's called the Exodus, or it's called Exodus Americanus, but with they call themselves the Great American Houseboat. I think I'm still unsure which one is the formal name, but yeah, you can catch them on there. They joke about their alter egos or their evil twins are on Twitter. You can find them, Roscoe Jones, the Great White Power Ranger, and Pius Tusk.
Nice.
But yeah, they're on there. Good guys. I had a lot of fun on their show. They do kind of a similar to, if you remember the time that V and I went on to Fistful of Jokes live. It's a very kind of laid back, just a couple of dudes talking about sometimes some current events. They do a lot of theological, value based stuff where they talk about the importance of family values and religious values and that sort of thing, and a lot of the same stuff that we talk about here, but they do it more professionally. I would argue.
Than us, huh?
Yeah, they do. They don't do a lot of the. Well, they do. They still do a lot of the dick and fart jokes, but they do. They're classier than we are. I will have to say that they are classier.
We're total reprobates. I own it though. I've come to terms with it.
Yeah,
I totally.
You got to. I mean, we opened the show with you talking about getting VR BJs.
Yeah, getting really into masturbation. That's what I do with my life now. That's all I care about. Whacking off.
V, what do you have to shill other than the Oculus that you've obviously got stock in?
Yeah, don't forget to add us on LinkedIn and Twitter and all those places where we have social media that I don't actually check on, but I tell you to go to anyways, because it's important for some reason. Also, we have merch. If you get a chance to check out the Redbubble store, we've got a few things on there you might like our J-Rab shirt, or you could even get You Had Me at Bigfoot shower curtain, which you need. You probably need it. Is that how we're ending it? Oh, right. It's good. Yeah, it's good to be back. It's good that we didn't have any technical difficulties today other than Tom accidentally muting himself. Love you guys. Don't forget to come out next week. We're going to try to be more consistent again and not disappear on you guys for months at a time. We just did it this time because, it was the holidays and whatever excuse you need, just take it, figure one out. Make up an excuse yourself and tell yourself that and use it as our excuse. You get what I'm saying?
Generic excuse. We blew you guys off because generic excuse.
Yeah.
I told you it was because I had school and I had hunting. Hunting was very important to me. I had to take my boys out hunting, and it was their
Well,
first year modern gun hunting.
Remember we were supposed to do a show on my birthday,
Yeah.
but then, which is like funny, somebody did a surprise birthday party for me, which if you know me is not something that I would like. Like I always joke, I go, there's that scene on my show you had, it's called Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell, and they got that guy in hell, and he goes, and Satan goes to him, he goes, we know you like your privacy and you don't like attention, so we're going to take away your privacy and give you a bunch of attention because they're in hell, right? That's me at a surprise party. I don't like that kind of stuff. I like being alone, and I'm very content with my solitude. But being around people, I'm not good at that.
That's why you got to whenever I do birthday, because we do birthday parties, right? In this house, we celebrate birthday parties because we got a bunch of kids, right?
Yeah.
So we even do them for the adults because that way they see it as the norm. That's part of like family living, right? You got to like create these norms, and you have to abide by them. So whenever I have a birthday and we do it out, if we're out and they want to have the waiter come over and do the birthday song or whatever, or if we're doing it here at the house and they're singing happy birthday for them, because I haven't done a birthday with like my mom and my brother and them in years and years and years, like, and my sister. I often forget to mention my sister. I have a sister. And no, no, you can't. Rachel? Yeah.
Is her name Rachel?
Yeah. And she's married, gentlemen, so don't come hitting me up in the DMs about my sister's phone number. Who did I offend in the chat? Jamis, tell me. But the thing is, you have to like when somebody sings you happy birthday, instead of just standing there, because sometimes you're like you feel like you have to just sit there and stare at the candle and figure out what to do.
I hate
that. So he said, "What is it, me? But I'm Mexican." But he sits there. You sit there and you clap along with them, and sometimes you sing along with them, and you start dancing a little bit. And you like got to get really into it, like "Happy birthday! Yeah. It's my birthday. Today's my birthday." You like do a real shitty
You know what I
job.
did when they brought me the cake on my birthday, and they like set it down in front of me with all the 39 candles, and they were all blow out the candles, and then I go, and none of them blew out, and I thought it was like fake candles, and they were just messing with me, but it turned out that I just had weak air, that I just had like a weak.
That is some weak ass buster ass shit.
Some weak ass poo butt.
That's some weak ass birthday ass bullshit.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, so if you go buy our merch, because one of our Redbubble sites got shut down. I don't know if you guys saw this, if you were already on the at You Had Me podcast. We've been doing a lot of like political posting because I like to inject my political opinion into the You Had Me at Bigfoot thing, and risk getting in trouble because I have a big fat mouth. But they I don't remember where I was going with that.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Oh yeah. The I shared how it was talking about how like they had 125% voter turnout in I don't know, Nevada or Arizona or whatever it was. Nevada, we'll say. And I had made these logos that went on T-shirts and coffee mugs that said, it had a picture of the state in the background, and then it said, "I'm 125% with Joe Biden." And then it had the graph where it showed where it showed Trump winning, and then all of a sudden Biden's jump up, and it created the Biden Harris Biden Harris logo. I had made those, and then I had also made one that said 4 a.m. poll workers for Biden Harris. And because of how they did those big dumps in the middle of the night after they sent everyone home, all of a sudden Biden jumped ahead in the polls by like a huge margin, mysteriously or whatever, which is part of this whole voter fraud thing. But that site that account got taken down, which is fascinating to me because, and I'll tell you why, because I thought it was going to be about using the Biden Harris logo without permission, which I would understand. If they wanted to flag me for that reason and take my thing down because I used the Biden Harris logo without their permission. But if you go onto Redbubble, you can see a lot of people use it. They use it for free, or they use it themselves, and they say, just, but it's like riding with Biden and Biden with Harris 2020 or 2020, whatever, LGBT for Biden Harris, whatever. But these are all like random accounts. It's not like the official Joe Biden account because they sell their shit off of their website. Meanwhile, I share one, or I have an account. I had an account that had these funny ones. Like I'm 125% with Biden Harris or whatever for Arizona, or Pennsylvania. I'm 107% with Biden Harris, whatever. And mine gets taken down because it is anti Biden Harris. But the ones that are pro Biden Harris are still on there. Now, if you're wondering, did I reach out to them? I did. They say that they'll respond within 24 to 48 hours if you file a complaint. I filed a complaint. I said, hey, I'm just curious, what's the deal? How come my account got suspended? Here's the account information. Please contact me at this number, this email address. I'd love to hear. Just give me a reason. Like I'm not going to sit here and bicker with you. I just want to know a reason why my account was shut down. They never responded. You could have just said it, V, but whatever. Anyways, so yes. Totally... Say again.
That is some weak ass bust.
Some weak ass Biden ass bullshit. But yeah, we got shut down for that reason. But are you had me at Bigfoot one because we still own the rights to those images? It's still up there, and if you want to contribute to that, that would be great, because any money that is spent on T-shirts or merchandise is actually just invested back into the show. Neither V nor I see any of that money. I mean, I see it, but it goes into the show. Paying for the website, paying for the emails, paying for all the bullshit that goes off inside. And we really don't. You got to give us a little bit of credit here, because we don't do a lot of like advertising or Patreon or any of that shit. We do this shit for free. If you want to buy some cool stuff, that's great. That's all we ask. We would never ask you to like contribute for.
It's more like content. We don't. It's not that we want your money. We just want you wearing our stuff.
Yeah, that's too. Yeah.
We want people out there with the "You Had Me at Bigfoot" logo on. That's how I see it. Go out there and wear something that Tom drew. That's cool as shit.
Yeah. By the way, I draw all that stuff, so it's not like you're getting something that was, some generic like just font stolen from a website or whatever. Via hashtag poop later. But yeah, this is stuff that we own, that we created, that I personally drew, and is available. It's unique. I can tell you, on one hand, I can count how many people are walking around with the Slender Man shirt on. I can tell you how many people are walking around with the J-Rap shirt on. Yeah, I can tell you how many people have the You Had Me at Bigfoot shirt on. So it's a very unique shirt, and it's a conversation starter, and it helps us out in a great deal. So if you're going to buy a $25 Adidas shirt, spend $25 on a You Had Me at Bigfoot shirt. Slenderman shirt. What's the other one? The Wayfair shirt. I can tell you on one hand how many people have the Wayfair shirt. Or stickers. You want to throw them on your laptop? That'd be great too. But very unique merchandise. And if you have it on a coffee mug and you're at work and you've got your Slenderman in accounting coffee mug, that'd be tight. Again, conversation starters. You can be like, oh, well, as a matter of fact, these motherfuckers, they're fucking weird, and they talk about weird stuff. Like, they're funny. You should check them out. Sometimes they're funny. So like, not when Tom does his Type 5
now
and shit.
I feel like you're just messing with me because I have to go to the bathroom. You're keeping it a joke.
I'm actually going to read from this book that I've been studying, The Theology of John Wesley. Sermon 20, The Lord Our Righteousness. Anyways. But that's it. There was one other thing. If you haven't already, go to @YouHadMePodcast, and if you go to our page, like the main page, and look at our feed, there is actually a tweet where I quote retweeted Chicago, an official tweet from Chicago's social media, where they talk about, they did an ASCII picture of a house, and it said, in this house, we wear a freaking mask. And if you know anything about us, you know how we feel about masks. I reply, I quote retweeted that, used the same ASCII house, and I put, in this house, we have an abnormally high, or we are plagued by constant gun violence, while at the same time having the strictest gun laws in the nation. And we're actually on track to beat the original tweet based on likes and retweets. So if you haven't already, my dream is to beat the original official Chicago social media Twitter account on how many likes and retweets we can get on that tweet based off of my tweet making fun of their original tweet. So if you haven't already, go retweet it, like it, all that cool stuff, comment on it, draw attention to it, bring people to it, share it. And we will see you next week.
Take care, folks.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.